It's important.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting on Monday, January 25th, 2016. Just to remind council, there's a special meeting following this meeting. So please join Vice Mayor Loretano. Please stand and at the Pledge of Allegiance and stay standing for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, as we enter 2016, it may seem to be off to a rocky start. But we ask for your guidance, we ask for your wisdom, and we ask for your help to make good decisions for our city. We ask for your protection for those here, those abroad, and those suffering the storms on the East Coast, and wish them your grace. We also ask for your protection for those men and women serving abroad and who serve and protect us at home. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Councilman Loretano. All right, we have Councilman Osborne will not be attending this evening, so could I please have a motion, a second, to excuse Councilmember Osborne?
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Councilman Stipp. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. So we're going on to communication, which we do not have tonight. But now is the time for citizens who would like to address the city on any non-agenda item. Is there anybody in the audience that wanted to come on a non-agenda? All right, so then we'll go on. Thank you. So let's go to the consent agenda. Will the city clerk please read the consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.4 by title only, please?
Item 6.1, approved draft minutes from a regular meeting held on January 11, 2016. Item 6.2, approved the December 2015 budget transfer. Item 6.3, approved the final plat for Estrella Mountain Ranch, parcel 9.8, subdividing 38.15 acres into 106 single-family residential lots and 13 open space, landscape, and drainage tracts, generally located on the north side of West Calistoga Drive, west of South 184th Avenue, within the Estrella Mountain Ranch Villages 7 and 9 planned area development subject to stipulations. Item 6.4, approve the map of dedication for a portion of West Calistoga Drive adjacent to parcel 9.8 within Estrella Mountain Ranch.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Does anyone on the council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Okay, then could I please have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
I had a motion from Councilman Holman and a second from Vice Mayor Loretano. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Holman?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Great, let's go to the business. So the first item on business is a public hearing to consider an amendment to use the permit for Compass Church to remove a stipulation prohibiting a vehicular access to North 161st Avenue. I'm going to open the public hearing, and Steve Careccia, Planner 3, will present. Steve?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. We do have an application for tonight for the Compass Church. Compass Church property is located right here, Van Buren, 161st Avenue. Approximately 9 acres, all zoned agricultural urban. History for the church, initial use permit was approved in 1999. Subsequent use permit was approved in 2003 to add a daycare. Site plan was approved in July 2004 with the church built shortly thereafter. And just this past March, we had additional site plan amendment. Was for an additional 5,000 square feet to the church. The surrounding area This to the east is APS substation, shared driveway here with APS and the church. This is Wildflower Ranch, all here south of Van Buren. To the west, we have West Valley Christian, and this piece here zoned commercial office. Typical use we'd see here, medical, business offices. If you did go with a private school, you would be looking for a special use permit here. To the north of the Compass Church property, we do have the Wade Acres neighborhood. That's a larger lot, single-family residential, also zoned agricultural urban. With Wade Acres, you have more of a rural type feel. Most of the residents do have horses and other animals. Wade Acres does share 161st Avenue with the church. The neighborhood has come out in opposition to the application tonight for the reasons I'll mention more in depth later in the presentation. This is just the site plan for the church. This is the main sanctuary building here. We have some meeting rooms and classrooms. This right here is also church property for future development. And this is that shared driveway with APS right here accessing Van Buren. The driveway location tonight is this one right here, located at the northwest corner of the property. This is kind of looking at it north along 161st. Here's that driveway right there. And this is what it looks like today. It's just open for emergency access only. Back in 2003, the church did come in with that use permit for the daycare. There was neighborhood opposition. The neighbors did not want church access to 161st Avenue. So there was a stipulation of approval put on that this driveway would be for emergency access only, that future development would probably utilize this driveway here, which the shared driveway with APS. The applicant has stated that they have only one way in and out of their parking lot, this driveway right here off of Van Buren. And what they've told us is that, especially in between services, you have people leaving, people coming in, and with only one way in and out, you have cars queuing. People cannot back up, pull into a spot. So they said that this parking lot's very congested. What they find a lot of their members do is they find it easier to park along 161st and climb over the wall and then enter church that way. What they would like to do is open up this driveway. What they feel that would free up the parking lot. So now you have two ways to enter and exit. Would also help relieve some of the parking along 161st because the members would find the parking lot more efficient to use. They would use this parking lot now. However, when they did come in to meet with staff, we did inform them that there was that stipulation from 2003 that to amend the stipulation does require review by the Planning Commission and a decision by the City Council through a public process. The applicant understood and decided to proceed with the application. And again, that's the application you have before you tonight. For this application, we've had several meetings, several public meetings to date, several meetings with the applicant. We've had 2 citizen review meetings, one in October, one in December. We've also had 2 hearings before the Planning Commission, one in November and another in December. The residents of Wade Acres, some of the concerns through this process that they've informed staff, that they've informed the commission, is 161st Avenue is their only means of access to Van Buren. It is a dead-end street, so all of Wade Acres, this intersection right here, that's their only access to leave their neighborhood. It's also a dead-end street, so what they have is people mistakenly taking 161st thinking that it goes north to Portland or Canyon Trails. So that was something that they addressed with the increased traffic. So you have that traffic, and then if you open up a driveway here, now you're going to have church traffic now on 161st. And what that would cause then would be longer wait times to access Van Buren Street. Also, a concern mentioned to staff and to the commission was that with the church members parking along both sides of the street, there was concerns about emergency vehicle access. Would that cause delays should an emergency happen when the responders have to come to their neighborhood if cars were parked along both sides of the street? Another concern raised was there's a dedicated left turn lane onto 161st. Some of the residents stated that sometimes there's not enough room in that turn lane, that their cars are sticking out into the travel lanes, that should this open up, that would only make the situation worse. So for those reasons, this neighborhood did come out in opposition to this request. Staff did, over the last few months, we did review some of the concerns addressed to staff and to the commission. We did come up with a few resolutions. One was to add a no outlet sign to the street sign here at 161st and Van Buren. That was added. What staff will eventually do will be to sign no parking along the east side of 161st. Given the width is less than a standard, roughly 33 feet, it's only about 28 feet. Parking on one side of the street, that's only permitted. So the decision was to sign the east side. That would be the side that the responders would be using to enter the neighborhood. So eventually no parking signs will be placed along the entire length of 161st. And again, that's to hopefully address church parking and address that concern about emergency responders being able to access their neighborhood. Also, staff looked at restriping Van Buren Street instead of the dedicated lefts into Wildflower Drive and to 161st, to just restripe that as a center turn lane. So if you do want to turn left, you have more room as you're making your turn. Staff did estimate a cost for that. Staff did ask the applicant to share in that cost, and the applicant did agree. That's the third stipulation that staff is proposing. The applicant did explore using this shared driveway with APS in meeting county dust control requirements. What would be the minimum cost to construct some kind of drive aisle over and then connect to that driveway? What they informed staff was that it could be done, but however the cost was prohibitive, roughly double the cost that it would be to push the driveway opening here, that was something they could not afford at this time. So the applicant tonight will still be requesting that this driveway opening be allowed. And with the residents of Wade Acres, they remain opposed to any driveway opening here onto 161st. So at this point, we do not have a compromise position that we can present to the council. Staff recommendation to...
That last part. Can you say your last sentence?
Oh, yes, sir. Unfortunately, with the church wanting the driveway opening and the residents opposed to it, we do not have a compromise solution tonight for you. As noted in the staff report, we do have a split recommendation for the council tonight. The staff recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission was for approval. We feel that it met the requirements of a use permit. The Planning Commission, at their last meeting in December, they heard the staff report, heard testimony from the applicant and the residents. They made a motion to approve the driveway connection. However, that motion failed by a 2-3 vote. So by their bylaws, that was recorded as a recommendation for denial. So we do have a recommendation from the Planning Commission to deny this request tonight. Mayor and Council, that concludes my part of the presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. I think I have all the speaker cards. If there's somebody in the audience that has not made out one of these yellow slips and wants to speak, would you come forth to the city clerk? So I'm gathering everybody has made them out. Okay. So I'm going to start calling the names out. So just to inform you, each speaker, you're limited to 3 minutes. The yellow light and the buzzer will let you know you have 30 seconds left to speak. Before you begin, please identify yourself and speak into the microphone. Sometimes it's difficult, but clearly stating for the record your name and your address. Are we ready to bring them up? You're standing there like I've forgotten something. No? Okay, then we're going to start with the speakers, and I will call you up one at a time. Thank you, Steve. Okay, so I've decided to put these in separate piles, okay? So I'm going to bring all of the people up that oppose this first, and then the next group will come up so that we get a clear message of the position each side is taking. So my first one is Vernon K. Rogers. I'm sorry, is it Rogers or did I get the right last name correct? It is Rogers, okay.
That's right. Vernon K. Rogers. I live on 540 North 161st Avenue. Lived there for over 20 years. It's not working.
I'm sorry. Could staff come up and help them with this since they only have 3 minutes. Let's help them with the displays. I appreciate it.
Yes, could we have the Elmo, please?
Mayor and Council, during the short break that we had, the Elmo did not get hooked up, so that's not going to be available at this time unless we wanted to take a few minutes. And
I couldn't hear a word you said.
Elmo didn't get hooked up.
We took such a short break between meetings that Elmo didn't get hooked up, so if we want to take a few minutes to let
Right.
staff do
I can do that in
then
a
we
public
can.
hearing. I don't have to do anything but just announce short break, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a 10 minute. Is that going to give you enough time? 10 minutes break. Sorry to do that.
Oh, wait a minute. What's she saying? She said, wait a minute.
It's too late. I already did it. So if anybody up here needs anything for this 10 minutes, go ahead and do it.
Hit the restroom.
Yeah.
Did you understand what I was saying?
Oh, yeah, I get it. I just don't know. I don't know what to do. They do need 2 places to get in and out.
But they're the homeowners are the residents
Applicants,
are entirely
meaning
opposed.
the church. Oh, the
opening up
church.
that
I should do that
cul-de-sac. They
first.
don't want that either.
Okay, so I don't have any information on that. So yeah, ask him if he's in this one, and I'll do that. All right, let me tell Mr. Rogers what we're going to do.
That's the only one that makes sense.
Huh?
That's the only one that makes sense, other than going over to the APS road and biting the bullet.
Oh, yeah. Well, because of the dust.
I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit because I should have let the applicant come up to speak first, and that's why Steve was standing there staring at me. And I enjoyed the stare, but I was wrong. So we're going to go on to that, okay? And then how we're going to do this is we're going to reverse it. We're going to give the applicant the support group to speak first. They have chosen just to use 3 people out of their stack, okay? Just so you know, they had a big stack, and they're going to use 3 people to speak tonight, and I will call their names out. So, Steve, go ahead and introduce.
Mayor, Council, tonight for the representing the church is Mark Phillips. We also have church leadership here as well, a couple of the pastors who might like to speak before the council.
All right, so we have Pastor Phillips. All right, welcome.
I'm going to have to share with my church leadership that I'm a pastor now. I'm just an architect. Can I ask a question unrelated to the matter?
Okay, before you do that, some of us are a little hard of hearing, so be sure you bring that microphone up and we can hear you, okay?
Sounds good. And that's related to my question. Sitting back there,
Wait,
I'm having a hard time.
it's off.
I'm having a.
Okay, so can I
How
tell,
about that?
can we tell the technician to turn the microphones up a little bit? They're having trouble in the back of the room hearing. So we at the dais need to speak louder too. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to speak louder tonight, okay? All right, go ahead. Remembering you heard my little spiel about the 3 minutes, so I'm going to tell you you're on. Go ahead.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm going to do my best not to be redundant with what Steve covered. My comments are largely technical in nature. My name is Mark Phillips. I'm with CCBG Architects, and the church has hired us. We've been working with them for a few years to work with them on their campus expansion, both the current work they're doing as well as the future work, so master planning that we'll be doing with them. Is this on? It is on.
Yes.
Great. Couple things that I'd like to highlight, just expound on a little bit. As you can see here from the enlarged site plan, the current circulation Van Buren is to the bottom of the page, so north is up. That's the one-way in, and you can see that the circulation around the property is difficult. One car can navigate it easily. When you introduce 100 cars and they're trying to go opposite directions, it becomes quite confusing. That's led to, as Steve alluded, the issue with cars parking on 161st Avenue. That's partly been mitigated with the city going in to put signs along the east side of 161st Avenue to eliminate parking on that side of the street. The other thing that we believe, as we've been discussing with the church, that opening up the drive to the northwest will help with is both on-site and off-site efficiency and safety. Opening up that drive will encourage people back here to exit onto 161st Avenue. Because it's a no outlet to the north, they have no need to go to the right. They'll be coming out to Van Buren to exit right there. And then it will also simplify the circulation on site. So thereby a net effect of increasing the safety. I think significantly people won't be parking on 161st Avenue. And then on site as well, it provides for the local community, many residents of Goodyear that are members and attenders of the church. As we've been working with the church, one of the things that we do with all of our clients is we look not just at short-term but long-term. And that's one of the things that we've done with Compass as well. So while what I'm about to show you is not final, it's not been presented to the city, this is just a piece in the process, conversations that we've had with the church. You can see their existing facility here as well as the classroom. And this just demonstrating that we have looked at and do plan on developing the east part of the property. The northwest drive right now we feel is the most economically viable, simplest solution, the most reasonable solution for the church to gain access to, and that's why we're presenting the request to you this evening. Do you have any questions for me at the time?
There will be, but after the meeting, after the public meeting is closed, then we'll ask questions and talk about it, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I put pastor on that, didn't I? Because
Oh, that's okay.
okay, well, hey, it's better than calling you something else, so you won tonight. Okay, the next one will be Rob Antoniak.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me okay? It's
Yes.
tough to tell from up here if people can hear you in the back of the room, and so I think you talk softer when you're up here. Anyway, good evening, Mayor and Council. Robbie Antoniak, 200 West Alegre Drive in Litchfield Park, Arizona. Don't scorn me, city staff. I still do have a house in Goodyear. As you know, I've got a long history with this project. In 2003, when I sat in the very seat that you're sitting in tonight, voted in favor of the special use permit associated with this church. I never, at that time, had it occurred to me that I would end up going to church there. I found a church home that very evening. We had a packed house at the old Justice facility. Mr. Dalkey and Mr. Massey will remember, and some of the others in the audience will remember, it was a pretty hot evening in that building. There was about 150 people in there, and I think we had a capacity of about 60. So it was a pretty heavy topic that evening. But very, very simply put, I was asked advice this evening by the church, having been involved in that process and having been involved in the spirit and the quite frankly, negotiation of the way 161st exists today. I believe this evening you may hear some remnants of that, and you may hear that the sidewalk is difficult to walk on, or there is no sidewalk to get to Van Buren. That was very much one of the salient points that evening, as staff I think would back up, and if you went and looked in the minutes, is that we negotiated a decomposed granite pathway that the church maintains to this day in lieu of a sidewalk. The neighborhood did not want a sidewalk. Staff required a sidewalk. And so very much from the dais, we negotiated that very evening and removed the sidewalk from the stipulations associated with that permit. But very, very simply put, and I want to get to it, and if I could get, I think Elmo is there, I just wanted to show you a quick representation. All these black dots you see here represent a household. We have over 300 households that represent over 1,000 individuals that attend Compass Church. As you can see, and I tried to very much dumb it down in terms of the dotted line here, you can see that's within Goodyear. You can see a lion's share of those households are right there centered around Goodyear. So while I do respect the neighborhood north of us as a member of that church and want to listen to them, and our phone is always on to listen to them, we also have many members that are coming from the surrounding area that very much are probably due the same consideration. Furthermore, we polled 173 Goodyear households that we know are regular attenders that invest over $100 a month in our church. We got 126 responses, and very simply put, we asked them this question. I support the removal of stipulation currently preventing Compass Church from accessing the driveway on 161st Avenue, and I believe allowing this driveway to be used for church services and events will make the church parking lot safer and alleviate traffic congestion. As staff will attest to, making a turn out of this church can be very difficult at times, even though it's Sunday morning. And really, at the end of the day, what we're talking about is about 100 vehicles to 150 vehicles, twice, maybe 3 times on a Sunday morning that need to access, ingress, and egress that church. And we believe that this will make that a safer environment. Thank you.
The next speaker is Tim Jacobs.
Good evening, Mayor Lord, members of the council. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yes.
I'm Pastor Tim Jacobs. I suppose I'm the instigator of all of this tonight. It was my idea, as our church has been growing, to say how can we look at this exit and try to figure out a solution that can be workable for everyone. I've been at this church for 8.5 years, and I've seen it grow from several hundred people to now growing by hundreds. And as you know, you may not know, we are expanding right now. We're in a construction project right now underway. And the most exciting thing about our church has been the fact that we've really been able to be a part of the community. One of the individuals here tonight is a guy named Mike Headland. He spoke to the council several months ago about what we call our Code Busters ministry, which is a partnership with the code enforcement here with Goodyear to be able to help deal with blighted homes and to have volunteers do that. That's the spirit of who we are. We have wanted to be able to reach out to the neighbors and north and say, how can we make this thing work for everybody? We have tried to, as the staff shared, say, how can we make these concessions to be able to figure this out, because we are in a situation where we're growing. There's a lot of traffic. You know, part of the challenge for us is over the past 8.5 years I've been here, we've had several members of Wade Acres who've become great members of our congregation. And so all the while, I've never once, until this process, heard a complaint about anything that we were doing. So when it's quiet, you just assume that everything's fine, because if there was a problem, it would probably come through those members or whatever else. And so to have this come up has been quite surprising for us, and we've been trying to deal with it. But we have yet to hear, until this process, any complaints. So we've been moving forward, and we thought this would be a pretty relatively easy process. But I want to reiterate the fact that it is our desire to continue to be good neighbors, not only with Wade Acres, but with the entire community. Again, we have been growing. We even have an individual here tonight who heads up what we call our City Reach ministry, where we once a year will shut down the church for one Sunday a year, and we'll go out and do service projects all over the place. That's our heart, not just for the community, but also for our local area as well. And I hope you hear that throughout this process this evening. And I think it's why our church has attracted those people that Rob did put on the screen, and why it is growing, because of that spirit. And we do believe that as I'm here, I'm responsible for this organization and those who contribute to it to make sure that we're finding the best solution, and we're responsible and accountable for that. So thank you very much for your consideration. Are there any questions?
We can't at this time, but thank you later. The questions will come later.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now we're going to go to the side of the individuals that oppose the staff's recommendation. So I'll start out. Vernon Rogers, come forth again. Thank you for being patient and waiting and helping me through this.
Okay, again, Vernon K. Rogers, living on 540 North, 161st Avenue, Goodyear, Arizona. Lived there for over 20 years. As the pastor said, he wants to be a good neighbor. Well, we want to be good neighbors too. And the complaints we do have and did have, we didn't address them because we were good neighbors. We let the noise go. We let the traffic, the complete road be blocked off. We let that go. But from now on, I don't think that'd be possible. So anyhow, now to turn this back on.
It's on.
It's here.
It's on. We can
okay.
see it.
This was this Sunday right here. As good neighbors, and they know that that's a fire lane and it shouldn't be used, they're still doing it. What happens is when they open up the doors, you have to slam on your brake. Very, very safety hazard. And it's happened before. This right here happens to be their parking lot. You can see it's quite empty. They could have parked there if they was concerned about the neighborhood safety. I am a agricultural person, and that's what that district is for. I ride horses up and down that. I pull a cart with horses up and down it, and I'm concerned about the safety. And you've seen on the photo that there's no sidewalks there provided. And when they open up that driveway, it's not for just Sunday services. It's anytime they want to use that driveway is open. If they start schools there like they had the daycare center, that will be a busy, busy intersection street. And it's not safe when the kids go to school. They walk down the middle of the street. It's not safe. We have neighbors from Wildflower. They came over, and they go down and they look at the horses and stuff. They like it because it's a quiet neighborhood, and it's safe. They can walk, and their kids can enjoy the farm sceneries. I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Robert Robinson. Now, you do know if some of you want somebody else to speak for you, may. You'll still have just 3 minutes, though. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Robinson.
My name is Robert Robinson. I live at 1673 West Wade Lane, Goodyear, Arizona. The first thing I'd like to address is the Buren Street, where they want to get rid of the turn lanes. We had the city engineer talk about that at one of the meetings we had off-site. And the comment he made was, for 8 years, we haven't had a traffic accident there. Well, to me, that tells me that it's working. Not that we want to change it so we can have vehicles coming from both directions and they don't have a defined spot on where they want to turn. Safety is the biggest key that we have here. We have a lot of families with children. They like to ride their bikes. We purchased homes there. I've been there 31 years because we enjoy that area. So we really want to address the safety issue. When the kids are riding their bikes, they ride down Wade Lane. They can go in either direction, and they do it as a family. And if we have this going on, then we can have issues. Another safety issue is unaccompanied minors in the parking lot, fact, at the church, in the dark, in the back of the parking lot. We see it. I saw it this Sunday when I was coming home from my mother's house, and no adult supervision there. So that's a safety issue because we have, in the first house there, we have 2 young girls that live there, and the parent even told me I don't allow my kids to play out there certain times unless I'm there because we don't know what's going on. So we really need to look at that. Being the good neighbor, I want to reiterate what Vern said. Today, or Sunday, coming home from church, I go to Desert Springs Church. I'm coming home. A young lady pulls up in her Suburban, pulls in, throws her door open, does not even look. Shuts the door. Me and my wife stop. She doesn't even look back to say sorry, nothing. She just walks in. But I don't understand how a church leadership team from over 2 months ago understood we have a road that is limited in space. It's under 30 feet. And they were told, do not park on both sides. To date, they're still doing that. And I don't understand why the leadership wouldn't take the initiative as a good neighbor to address that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Kitty Robinson.
Katie Robinson, 16073 West Wade Lane, Goodyear, Arizona. I've been in my home since 1985, 31 years. Good evening, Mayor and council members, and thank you for letting us have this time. I respectfully submit to you 2 solutions to this case, solutions that we have brought forth to the church and to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they've just been ignored or just tossed aside, but I want them bringing them forth to you so you can consider them from your end. The solution number 1, which has been brought forward again by Steve tonight and even the church, was that they can use the APS driveway.
We're having a problem. It seems to be echoing up here, so I don't know whether to pull the microphone closer to you up or a little louder. I just checked a couple of us.
Checking, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
That's better.
Okay.
If you get it close, okay?
So do I need to repeat?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll give you a little bit extra and start her all over. Will you please?
My address too, or do you have that?
There you go.
Okay. I want to respectfully submit to you 2 solutions to the case. These solutions have been brought forth to the church. By the neighborhood. They've been brought forth to the Planning and Zoning Commission and to the city staff, but both have been not looked at by the church or tossed aside. But I would like to respectfully ask that you consider these solutions because it would benefit the church definitely and the issues that they've brought forth and definitely benefit the community that I've lived in for 31 years. Solution number 1, the church can use the APS driveway as an entry exit or just an entry or just an exit to the parking lot. The city engineers actually researched this proposal as the initial thought would be that the church would have to pave their parking lot and make upgrades. But we were told by the city engineer that using appropriate dust control measures, as Steve even brought forth, that the church could expand their parking lot to the vacant lot east of the building and use the APS driveway, which APS gave the permission to the church to use back in 1999 or 2003. But they have that there. This is a cost to the church, and that was why they said no. I understand that. But it's a monetary cost that they could probably overcome by redoing budgets or prohibiting some expenditures in the next few years without impeding on our quality of life and our safety and how we have home. It also would alleviate the bottleneck because they can go in one way and out the other. And so the issues that they brought forth about the congestion in the parking lot, we see those. Rob and I see those. All of us see those. But there is a solution. They just don't want to look at that solution. Number 2, which was presented to them, is to hire police traffic control right now until they get all those plans that they were going to do, to assist with the traffic entering and exiting the church during the regular service times and the special events. And there are quite a few special events that we would like to see some control going on. Skyway Church of the Valley does this with great success down there on Van Buren. Greg Brown's done a great job with that. Traffic control would help reduce the current issues with safety, vehicular, and pedestrian. Both of these options offer solutions to the neighborhood in keeping the church traffic off of 161st Avenue, and I'm going to let my neighbors tell you about those issues, as well as a solution to the church by allowing for another entry or exit point. You've heard some passionate pleas. You'll hear some more passionate pleas. But our main issue is safety and our quality of life, and we ask that you hear that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Rory Sands. I'm sure I mispronounced that, so forgive me. Oh, signs, like a sign. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Roy Sines, and I live at 640 North 161st Avenue here in Goodyear. Poor planning on the part of the leadership of the Compass Church should not constitute an impact on our lifestyle. Poor planning simply because recently they allocated funds for expansion of their 3 buildings of 60% without addressing the existing issues of their parking lot. They may very well say that they only have one ingress-egress avenue to their parking lot, which is a fallacy. They've had permission to use the Arizona Public Service driveway for a number of years. The city of Goodyear requires that they put down gravel or some like material for pollution control. Instead, they want to open up a driveway onto 161st Avenue, impacting my life. Why wasn't money budgeted for this purpose if they had money to add on at a 60% rate? Why do we have to sit and wait for church traffic to clear? Are they willing to use the APS driveway and hire a police officer to direct traffic, much the same way the Skyway Church does? My heavy-duty equipment trailer entering or leaving 161st Avenue during church services or a dismissal of church services or any of their events would be a safety concern for me. People, children and adults must become more aware of the increase of traffic. An older gentleman with Alzheimer's must really watch his P's and Q's as he takes his daily walk down 161st Avenue. In closing, what all this says to me is here we have a business with smoke and mirrors manipulation, a business that does not have a solid plan for growth. If you don't get your way with planning and zoning, you go to the city council. Why have a planning and zoning commission? Thank you.
Thank you. Delphine Signs.
Should I bring it down?
Yeah, good for you.
Delphine Signs, 640 North 161st Avenue. I would just like to reiterate what all my neighbors have said. Also, that my grandchild, who is just 5 years old, learning to ride her bicycle, I follow her as far as I can, and we turn around with all that extra traffic and the great-grandchildren that come and play out on the street because that's where we play. With all this extra traffic, they say, oh, well, we'll just make a left-hand turn here. You know that there's going to be traffic going to turn up, just if nothing else, just because of curiosity. Thank you.
Welcome. Phyllis Pearson.
Mayor and council members, my name is Phyllis Pearson. I live at 812
Ms. Pearson, just
North
pull the microphone down.
161st.
Just pull it. It'll come right down. Bend it a little bit. There you go.
I live at 812 North 161st Avenue since 1999. It's my understanding my home was built in the 70s, and the neighborhood was produced as an agricultural horse property, whatever you want to call it. And so it seems that people take issue with how many of us there are that are being affected, and I don't think that's very clear because we presently have 23 homes. Many of those are multifamily units, and we have the potential for 26. That right now stands for like 75 normal vehicles coming and going several times a day, and add to that horse trailers, RVs, and other agricultural equipment, not counting deliveries, and pickups of standard services for residential area. This is quite a bit of traffic. And you're talking to us about taking traffic out of the church for a left turn towards Van Buren, and that traffic crosses the ingress and the egress for our entire neighborhood. And you're talking about, on a Sunday, 450 vehicles, but you're also talking about a lot more than Sunday. And it's my understanding that none of us from our neighborhood wants to limit the church activities in any way. But for this whole thing to have been presented to begin with about Sundays, it certainly isn't. And I brought an issue about emergency services because We had a death a year ago, Thanksgiving, the week before Halloween, and the church had an event. I was told was not their event, but they allowed an event on their property where people parked on both sides of the street and into the lot to the west, and there was traffic congregating in the roadway. I brought this issue because we had a house burned down on our street, and I've been present for more than one need of EMTs there. This is not about the parking on the street. This is about if you're going to block that road for the ingress and the egress for 450 vehicles on a Sunday and as many other times as they want to have events, then where is our protection? It's not just about the parking on one side of the street. It's about making sure that we always have access in and out of our homes and that the emergency people can get there in time. And that we call being a good neighbor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Huh? Phyllis. Okay. All right. Dad called Phyllis. All right. Kelly Caesar. Thank you. I hadn't moved it.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Caesar. I live at 16095 West Wade Lane. My daughter is born in 2011. We started looking for a home a couple months before then, and I found my home in Goodyear. It met all the needs that I want. It met all the needs for my family. I'm on the corner of 161st and Wade Lane. And I can empathize with the church on their one ingress and egress point because as some of the members of council drove through, we have, as neighbors, as residents, one egress and one ingress point. I have safety concerns for my children, my family, my neighbors with the increase of traffic. If they have traffic flowing in to our neighborhood to use that access point or out of the neighborhood, that's an increased traffic flow. It's about a football field length into our neighborhood that this access point would be. Our street is not set up for this. This is a safety concern. It's not set up to handle this traffic increase. We have a stop sign that we use to exit from our neighborhood onto Van Buren. So if we had traffic coming from both directions, we would certainly be blocked in at any time they were using that access point for church activities. The survey question that was cited and was actually part of a survey that was posted on Facebook. That's a social media site that anyone can answer and access that. So I would question the validity of the numbers that were presented to us, as anyone could go onto that Facebook survey and answer that question that was presented. I concur with the solutions brought up by my neighbor Kitty Robinson, and in closing, Goodyear is one of the fastest growing cities. I would hope that the commercial businesses have a plan for growth prior to expanding, just as the city does. We wouldn't function as a city if we made willy-nilly decisions to drive growth. We shouldn't allow commercial businesses to build without some plans, especially when it's impacting tax-paying residents. They've known about these parking issues since 2003. I would hope at this point that they would have, especially since they're expanding their church by so much, considered the parking at that point and not just assume they were going to have access at this access point. So thank you for your consideration and time.
Thank you. Lorenzo Castro.
Hi, my name is Lorenzo F. Castro. I live at 16036 Westway Lane. Me and my family love to go for bike rides around our neighborhood. Our streets don't have any sidewalks, so our street is our sidewalk. If a driveway is built, it will put me and my family in danger with cars coming and going. It will make our neighborhood unsafe for walking or riding. We should consider safety the number one priority for our neighborhood and me and my family. Keep our unique neighborhood safe for me and my little sisters to enjoy our bike rides. We live in a calm neighborhood. The driveway will only disturb the peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Fernando Castro.
My name is Fernando Castro. I live at 16036 Westway Lane. I'm here because I'm the rest of my neighbors. I oppose the driveway. The number one priority should be the safety for the residents and the pedestrians who are walking the street. As you can see in the picture, we don't have sidewalks. This is not a typical neighborhood. It is a low-level, acre-lot rural neighborhood with narrow streets and no sidewalks. We enjoy walking, bike riding, and horse riding. Opening a driveway will only make it dangerous and unsafe for our residents and pedestrians enjoying a walk around our neighborhood because of cars coming and going through if they pass the driveway. We will be forced to be put in the same street, cars and pedestrians. This is an accident waiting to happen. Some solutions, I think, like some of my peers have said, hire police officers to help with the traffic congestion that the church has. Stagger the times of the church so they won't be one after the other. The APS driveway. Don't put our lives in danger due to your poor planning and inconvenience because it's the cheapest alternate you guys have. Thank you.
Thank you. Leticia Castro.
Leticia Castro, 16036 West Wade Lane. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I would like to sum up the church decisions in one word: convenience. Everything they've pushed for so far has been for their convenience, as they said, because for them it's reasonable and it's cost effective. For us, neighbor, our number one reason, our heart is in safety. Safety of our children, safety for our elders, safety for our pets, safety for their own church members, and safety for our guests. We can't put a price on safety. Facts that I would like to share with you: we have 19 out of the 22 households that oppose this, and they've let us know both in petitions, written, or they've come and spoken out. We also have a household that's a member of the church, yet they oppose the siding with the church, and they've let them know, and they're not here to speak on behalf of the church. Also, there's no need to park on 161st. They're taking away some of their parking with the expansion, and people are parking on 161st for efficiency because they don't want to wait in the parking lot to get safely onto Van Buren. I'm guessing they want to be at IHOP before the line gets longer. The next fact is that the Planning Commission has already denied their request, as have past council members. Also, the church has advertised in a video and to some of the community members and West Valley Christian Church that this has been approved. They already had plans of what they were going to be using this driveway and had communicated that. For me, we're asking you to do the right thing, to get answers for us to the many unanswered questions we still have. To me, the best solution is for us neighbors to work with the church for some transparency on their behalf, to be honest with us and reach out so we can work on solutions. For me, it's about wanting to feel safe in my own community. I wouldn't ask the church to let me borrow their parking or their fields if I have guests in my company. So I'm asking them to take that into account also when they're parking on 161st, when their parishioners have their doors open and chatting as we're trying to come and go from our neighborhood. For me, it's about safety. And you will see that we brought as many people as we could from our neighborhood to show their concerns. We want it to be safe, and we want to work with them for some positive solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public meeting. I have a question for the
Mayor, before you close the public hearing, I would just confirm on the record that those that indicated they didn't want to speak that were in support still don't want to speak. I would just confirm that for the record. For that other stack of forms.
Okay, so I've already banged the gavel. How would you like me to handle that? Just unbang it?
Unbang it.
I'm unbanging it.
It's unbanged.
I'll tell you what, okay. So I think I have the right cards here. So you want me to read them all out?
I would just call it.
Okay.
Just confirm that.
I'm going to confirm anybody in this stack of cards that didn't get to speak, Would they like to speak? This is the people that, no, this is the people that support. We're talking about support. But you didn't turn it in. Who did I miss? You had one mixed in with the other one. Let me see. No, that's Castro. We did all those. City Clerk, why don't you come up and take a look at this?
Or just call them up.
All right, just call them out. Okay. All right. The people that did not get the opportunity to speak, that want to speak, please come forward one at a time. Again, you have 3 minutes. Speak your name and address clearly.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I live at 16036. My name is Lizzie Castro. I like to roller skate. And I don't want to get hit by a car. While cars are trying to get out of the parking lot, it might not see me. Thank you.
The next.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Eva McComb. I live at 11015 Lynn Smith Avenue, Whittier, California. I am a frequent visitor of my friend Lupe Ramirez. I wanted to mention that I am the wife of a retired fire chief, and my concern with this proposal is for safety. The fire trucks driving down that street, I know from what I've seen, if 2 cars are parked on each side, not even a regular car can drive through there. Safety is the number one thing with fire. Also, I haven't heard anything said regarding the occupancy of this church, and it's growing by hundreds and hundreds of people. How many parking spots are there for the occupancy number in that building? And the occupancy number for the building has to do with safety. There is only allowed so many at so many times, and there should be adequate parking for that. If there is, I don't see a reason that they need to park on that street. So I wanted you guys to concern for safety, fire issues, number one, and fire access, and cars not being able to go through when there's double park is the problem. It'll be even worse for a fire truck. So I really would like you guys to keep that in mind and keep the occupancy level with the church growing. I'm wondering if it needs to stay there in that location. If it's growing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds at a time, I'm wondering whether that really needs to be there now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Anybody else? Rorik.
Hello. I'm Joan Usher. I live at 372 North 161st Avenue. Actually, that is my driveway right there. And as you can see, this is pretty much the area where the proposed driveway for the access to the church is going to be. My husband and I are equine professionals. We work in the equine industry. We are a Christian family. We have 2 daughters, ages 10 and 13. They actually attend West Valley Christian School. So we do support church activity, of course. Our concern for what is being proposed is for safety concerns only. With us being in the equine industry, we planned where we wanted to live. Why we planned and decided ultimately to live in this area was we liked the churches in the area. We liked of course, it is horse property. We are very active in the horse industry. We access through this driveway is our only access with a very large living quarters horse trailer, which is 32 feet on the floor. This whole road is only 30 feet. My concern, of course, is ultimately for human life first. If that road is as busy as it can be, no emergency access vehicle will access us at that residence. Besides that, a huge concern for me, safety-wise, is when I need to leave to and from my residence with my large trailer full of horses and my children going to rodeos, I will simply not be able to access this road. And I pull down here, get to this point with basically a 40-some foot rig, and everybody is leaving here. That simply is a huge safety concern for everybody involved. So I'm very limited that way. It's a huge concern for me that way, safety-wise. I am also concerned, I do not, on a regular basis, allow my children to be out, access the front of our property for the very reason that another neighbor had brought up, there is activity that goes on in the church after hours that there is no adults present at the time. It is a very active church, which I admire on one hand, but it also brings concerns to me with my young daughters that it is a very busy time and it's not always regulated. Those are my concerns. Thank you for hearing us out.
All right. There are no other speakers. I'm going to somebody else wants to speak. Yes, come forward. I would just lift it up and hold it in your hand that's it.
Okay.
If you can do that. Thank you.
Hi. I'm Lupe Ramirez. My husband is David. I have lived at 740 North 161st Avenue for 29 years. David is traveling out of state, or he would be here to oppose this matter. Together with our neighbors, we strongly oppose the request to convert the fire department driveway on 161st Avenue into a full commercial driveway. We have opposed this request since 2003. We have supported the council's stipulation to the 2003 use permit that, one, the 161st driveway should be for fire department access only. Two, the applicant should follow through and work out an agreement with APS for joint access to the APS driveway. In 2003, the council heard the residents' concern and denied commercial access to 161st Avenue. The applicant tonight is asking you to decide the same issue again, the same issue and the same concerns. The conditions that applied in 2003 have been magnified in 2016. As you know, the applicant is expanding their main building by approximately 4,700 square feet. Their traffic report predicts that in and out traffic will increase by more than 200% during peak times on Sunday events. So the church seriously needs a second driveway connection. At the P&Z meeting on November 18th, the commissioners asked the applicants to explore access to the APS driveway. They did, and at December 16th meeting, the applicant told P&Z that the APS driveway was too expensive, and they still wanted to have commercial driveway onto 161st Avenue. By a split vote, P&Z did not agree and recommended a denial of the request. One, the applicant has had over 12 years to implement the APS driveway access. Two, the current building expansion project is valued over $723,000, and they should have been able to include the APS connection into their plans, but they haven't done this. Instead, the applicant has spent quite a bit of money on this driveway application, a traffic report, and will spend half the cost with the city to restripe Van Buren. And the restriping of Van Buren is a new problem to residents and drivers, and a major worry concern to us from safety point of view. All this is due to the applicant's refusal to connect to the APS driveway, which the council stipulated. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Any other speakers? All right. So what you're telling me, that I'm going to close this. Yes, I thought I could ask now, but I'll close the meeting. Is that you want me to read each of these paragraphs And we are going to discuss this with or without a motion.
In the past, when the council's had two options, that has been a way you've handled that. You have some
Okay, so
discussion,
we're going to, okay, so I'll read both of these, but we're not going to take a motion on them at the time. So the first one is whether we were going to deny the amendment as recommended by Planning and Zoning Commission to use a permit for Compass Church to remove a stipulation prohibiting vehicular access to North 161st Avenue. Or we're going to approve an amendment as recommended by staff to the use permit for Compass Church to remove the stipulation prohibiting the vehicular access to North 161st Avenue subject to stipulation. So we're not taking any motion or anything. We're going to discuss this. So who would like to start the discussion off? Don't all raise your hand at one time. Yeah, you can. That's what the discussion is for. I don't want you just to make a statement. I want you to ask questions of both sides, and let's get the information. Vice Mayor Loretano.
Wasn't listening. I'll start with questions. I'm sure I might come up with more as we talk. If I could ask the fire chief, there's been a lot of discussion about access to fire trucks, so I figure we might as well go to the expert on that. If we have no parking, it's going to be no parking on one side of the street.
Correct.
Could you tell us what effect or would that have an effect? Just your opinion.
Well, the effect will be by limiting the parking on one side of the street, it allows us to have a safe passage to move the apparatus down that street. We worked with Luke Albert and with the engineering department to make sure that we had an appropriate amount of access down that street. Typically, we say about 20 feet to make sure that we're able to move freely down that street with the apparatus for any type of call, whether it's a fire or a medical emergency.
So to add to your question, at this point, do the residents park on the street? Are they allowed to park on either side of the street all the way down to where it curves? It has the roundabout?
Yes. So I'll let the engineering director answer that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, today there is not restricted parking on either side. In this case, with working with fire, it has been determined that the east side of the road is the most appropriate side to sign no parking, and we would sign it from Van Buren all the way up to the cul-de-sac, because when a apparatus is approaching is the most critical time, and so the inbound lane is the one that we need to sign as no parking.
Thank you. And if anybody has a question like that is similar to what your person's asking, but it's in that time to ask it.
Okay.
Councilman Campbell.
Chief, I would also, if we are looking at that, to limit the parking on the east side of 161, that we also look at Wade Lane to do restrictions in that as well, because that street, I drove it and walked it today. Those streets are narrow, but they're narrow to today's standards. But when these homes were built, they were built to the correct standards. So we've got to understand that the road is more narrow, but it's the way it was designed many, many years ago. So I would encourage you to look at that entire subdivision so that at least one side of every street is blocked with no parking so that your fire trucks and ambulances can get in there. We've not apparently had an issue before because no one has raised this issue to our level. And obviously this has been going on a very long time. This didn't just start in September or October or even August. So we need to really look at that area and make sure that we have the correct openings for our fire folks to get through, and police.
Absolutely, Councilmember Campbell. We'll work with the engineering department to ensure that we have safe passage for our emergency vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Next. Councilman Pizzillo.
Probably first one would be the city clerk when it comes to special events. I got a general question when it relates to that.
Can you talk a little bit louder because I can't hear you that well?
I got a question of the city clerk. Special events. If you have a special event on a property, must it stay on that property? Or, I mean, how does our special events, refresh my memory here when somebody puts in a special event right now. How does that work?
Councilmember Pizzillo and Mayor Lord, the special event permit requirements is if you have more than 250 people attend the event. So if they are having that type of outside event, cooking, if they have tents outside, then that would require a permit.
But it has to stay on their property?
Well, it would, yes, if they're doing a special event, it would be on their property.
Okay. Next question I have probably for engineering.
There may be a lot of questions for you, so you might stay near the front. Uh-huh.
Get your steps in for the day. When is it determined that a traffic control officer is needed to direct traffic, or how do you determine at what level that you need it from a safety standpoint?
I think we got the wrong person up here for this. I'd like the chief of police to come up.
Oh, okay.
But don't go far.
I would like to introduce the chief.
Very good.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Actually, that would be, we have off-duty officers that get hired out by several businesses in the community, and that would be up to the business or establishment itself if they wanted the extra security or traffic control to do that.
But there's nothing that we would require one way or the other from a safety standpoint, so
No.
It's up to them to do that. Okay.
Can I interject something into this while you're just saying, because it's on the driveway? Skyway Church has two exits and two entrances. We have two ways to go into the church and out of the church. So it isn't a one road.
No,
so
it's
I
two.
wanted to get that misnomer off the floor right now. So okay,
No, but
go
they
ahead.
also have traffic. Yeah.
They have traffic.
They have traffic control there as well.
But they don't have to because they have two roads coming up. They chose to do that. Okay, Joe, sorry, interrupting. Go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt on that.
Oh, yeah, good. It works much better when we are talking on the same subject.
And a firm push on the red button does not change the color. Just to point a note.
Personally telling you something.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I think you've got a control over there, Mayor. That's what I'm thinking. So there is nothing that gives you the authority, or someone in the authority in the city, the authority to say this is creating I'm going to go public nuisance, because I'm not a lawyer, that would allow you to step in and say, look, I know you haven't asked for one, but you have to have one. There's nothing that...
Oh, absolutely. I think if something is to the scale that it creates a nuisance or a safety issue, that probably myself has the right to, or as the police chief, I have the right to, make contact with the organizers or the ones putting on the event, saying, hey, it's out of control. We need to provide security or have some kind of something in place because it's too much of a safety factor and we can't continue. So absolutely.
So I'm thinking about the day that a giant business comes in and, several hundred people leave work at 5 o'clock at the same time, and we have this massive traffic problem wherever that is. Is this not the same kind of thing?
That would probably be something just like we do our schools, but they're probably not to that magnitude. We see where the problems are at the start of the year, and we meet with school officials and sit down with them and map out plans to ease the traffic issues. That's probably, if we had a huge business come in and we had those concerns, it would probably be the same kind of thing.
Okay, and I'm assuming we haven't done that at this particular location.
No.
Okay, thanks.
Vice Mayor?
On this one. Okay. I just want to know what the cost would be. What does that run the business?
Cost for officers?
Yes.
It's $45 an hour per officer, 4-hour minimum.
And how many officers do you need to do something like this?
This one you could probably safely do with one.
I'm not sure this next question is the picture of the current expansion with the engineering. Maybe Rebecca, this is the one. So I can see a picture of what the new expansion is doing and the actual APS access road. Does somebody have something that'll show all that piece?
Can I add to that one? I'd like to know the number of parking spaces for the expansion that they need to have. So obviously they have enough right now in that one parking lot under our guidelines. Is that correct? I'm sorry.
Steve?
I don't know if Steve or the...
Steve should be the one to
Thank
tell
you.
us.
So we're talking about the parking lots.
And the expansion.
And the expansion. So I want to know on the number of parking, but maybe you want he asked his question first. Go to him first. Stay right there, Steve.
What I'm trying to do is get a visual of the expansion that's going on, where the APS line goes, and then the question as a follow-up is, and again, to be honest with you, I was kind of surprised when this came to me that this problem wasn't addressed when you first built the parking lot, because I see, just looking at it, how it's laid out and how it was approved, I see a problem there, okay? With that being said, it's done. Now, my second question, though, is now with the expansion. Okay, you've got the expansion, which means more parking, right? A more bigger building, more people. What is the position of engineering as far as how they plan on getting those people out of there? Is this the only option that we're seeing right here, cut onto 162, or does that now create a viable to the APS, because now you're going to need a more wider flow to circulate those individuals so it doesn't back up? Do you see what I'm getting at? If on 162nd you have a short distance, so that can back up there, and that's what I'm trying to figure out with the APS. If you're looking at a considerable drive to get to the lot and then down to Van Buren, then you could have a backup on cars, but that's all internal, and it's not sitting in the street. I'm no engineer, so I'm just throwing this out to you. I'm trying to get a visual on how that works, and I need your help to try to get there.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Pizzillo. I'm going to attempt to answer all your questions, but if I miss any, please let me know. So the first aerial I'm showing you here is of the overall site, and you can see where I've sketched on here an exit to the APS. And so the requirements for that, the engineering department, all we said was, please work with Maricopa County Environmental Services, as they're the one who have the dust control permits. And so we said to the customer, please find out what would be needed over that lot in order for you to use that for a drive aisle, and then come up with a cost, and please provide that to us. And so that's where they approached the county, asked for what was required, proposed something. We didn't ask them to expand their driveway, their parking lot in any way, as that wasn't what was needed. It was simply an access point. So that's the area where the APS drive aisle is. And then what I'm going to show you now is a question you had regarding where their improvements are, which is in this vicinity. So now I'm going to show you again. It's in this location.
And there are enough parking spaces for their congregation as it stands like now, so everybody that would attend that church could find a parking space? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the other question you asked me was in regards to how, from an engineering perspective, do we look at how they vacate out of the parking lot? We don't look at that. We're most interested in when they enter a site, similar to a school, so similar to anything, is that you would be backing up onto city right-of-way, and what's the potential for a safety issue there. I'm most concerned about if you're stopping in our right-of-way and somebody runs into you. So my interest is in clearing the right-of-way as soon as possible. So I'm not looking at how long it takes for vehicles to exit the site.
Okay. So if I understand what you're saying is the current expansion will put no more demand on the current parking spaces. Is that an accurate?
That's not.
It's accurate.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Mayor, council members, when we looked at that last edition in March, the total amount of parking spaces was 101. That was with the addition. They're providing 169 on site, so they have a surplus of parking spaces.
Are they? Let me make sure they're working on an expansion right now, also, or they have one coming in the near future. Is that what we saw earlier from the church?
Mayor, councilors, that was a conceptual plan for the ultimate build out of the church. Staff hadn't seen that yet, but that's probably their future plan.
Is there a timeline? Are we looking at 1 year, 2 years? That's probably best to ask the church. Okay. Can I get somebody from the church up? What I'm trying to get to here is eventually with the expansion that you're doing, is another way in and out of that place going to be needed? Because if you add another 100 or 200, or excuse me, 300 parishioners, okay, and you have another building out there, exiting that other side may not be enough of a flow to keep from backup. You kind of get where I'm kind of coming from, but I don't know what your time frame is, and doing this expansion. That's what I'm trying to get a feel for that.
Yes, sir. What right now, as you heard, we have a surplus of parking right now. The nature of our expansion is that we're not actually expanding so much adult seating capacity as children's classes, student ministry classes, to expand the size of those because they were kind of small to begin with. So we're not expecting a large degree more of cars at this point. However, in the future, and we don't know exactly when, part of our master plan is to pave that entire road, or that expand the parking east all the way to where, yes, an east exit would be and has to be feasible for us. What we don't want to do is spend an inordinate amount of money right now to do something that our architects have informed us we would have to tear up in several years, or whenever we are at the ability to be able to make that expansion.
So you don't have any real timeline right now in that expansion. You don't know if it's within 5, within 4, within 3 years.
Well, I wish it was as soon as we can, as soon as we're able to. But I would certainly say that we're at least 3 or 4 years out before we can move on to the next phase, because we're still in construction of our current phase right now.
And again, I'm no traffic engineer. What I'm trying to do is figure out is to prevent any backup on a road that provides egress for everybody to get in and out of there. I don't know if that's going to happen, because I have no idea what the backup of that's going to be to move people. It just seems to me that's a very short distance, as you come out of that roadway, to make the left. There's not a whole lot of room there if everybody's getting out at once. And I don't know what the size of your congregation is that's leaving out there. Is 100, 150, 200 leaving, after a church service? That may cause that, as opposed to something that stretches. So what I was looking for is a way that maybe you've got something in the near future, may not solve it right now, but in the near future, which will solve this problem and not need that 162 or whatever it is as an exit. You see where I'm kind of coming from? I'm trying to find a happy medium in here, and probably scratching my head if I'm ever going to get one. But that's what I'm trying to do here, and that's why I'm asking you those questions specifically on what your expansion is, because I'm believing at some point in time you're going to need to go east because of the traffic pattern. You're going to need to spread that out so that it mitigates getting on Van Buren. I could be wrong. Again, I'm no traffic engineer, but that's what I'm kind of envisioning if you got several hundred people getting out of that facility.
Along with that, I'd like you to answer me, do people leave from the front entrance to the church? I mean, or do you just go in that? They still come out after church, right?
They have
so
to. It's
you
the
have
only
to remember
access
that.
right now.
So you've really got, if the other one goes through, you've got 2 ingress-egress from it. You may not be exactly what the public wants, but it does work. So go ahead and answer his questions. Thank you.
Sure. So right now, the parking capacity, as mentioned, I think was just shy of 170. For sake of conversation, if you assume that half go out the north entrance and half go out the west entrance, you're talking about 85 cars out each. That typically, with churches, while it's in a concentrated time frame, it's not all 85 cars out both entrances at the exact same time. People leave, they mill, they talk, they go to classes, they pick up kids. So it is condensed. I don't want to mislead you there. But it's also something that happens probably over a 20-minute time frame. Cars coming in, cars going out. And yes, we certainly do envision, I can go get, if you want, the exhibit. The reason I showed that earlier was just to show that we have thought about and master plan the eventual use of that APS drive. As Tim mentioned, though, there's it's more cost right now, as well as the reality that it would get torn out down the road. So part of the reason that we're looking at the northwest access is that it's less money. It's also, from a certain perspective, better money spent because it doesn't get torn out at any point.
Vice Mayor?
I just want to follow up on Councilman Pazzilla's question since you're up here now. Is this something, because like the church we attend has, you go in the front, and when you leave, they have everybody from that service leaving the other would go to CTV in Peoria, and then they bring in the next group is coming in the front, and that seems to move. I mean, it's a huge church, and you get out of there within like 5 minutes. They seem to move it quickly. Would you be envisioning like a traffic pattern where you're entering only one, exiting only one, or are we going in and out for both of them?
Right now, what we're looking at is dual traffic both ways. If it were recommended by either a traffic engineer or if city staff came forward with a recommendation to provide directional traffic, then we would look at that. In our experience and what's been recommended to us before, oftentimes when you introduce a new traffic control, a new entrance, different drive lane, instead of immediately defining in some cases everybody does this or introducing a traffic control officer, give it a month, give it 2 months, let people see if they can figure it out. Oftentimes when there's a traffic control officer, people just kind of disengage and they wait for someone to tell them what to do. So not that the church is not interested in providing an active solution, but oftentimes waiting a little bit to see how it's used can inform what the best solution is then to put in place long term.
I have a couple of items here. So number one on, and I'll get back. Oh, go ahead.
Are you speaking as the mayor's last?
No, I won't. Go ahead. I'll be last. I keep forgetting. I can't get too interested, right? I have to wait right to the end. Go ahead.
Oh.
No, go ahead, Wally.
Okay. Well, I have several questions, and
Campbell.
I don't know to whom I need to ask it of, but in listening to your opposition, they said they have been opposed to you using that driveway since 2003. Were they opposed to your church even locating where you are? Do you know? So it was okay for the church to be built there with the one exit and entrance, knowing full well that when churches come into communities, they normally start as a seed church or very small, and they grow, which we want them to grow because they become more integrated into the community. And I'm just concerned that we need to find a solution to move your parishioners in and out, because I know you have 3 services on Sunday, and we need to get them in and out so that the next group can come in and out. But that's historically at all of our churches that have 3 services. We have 3 services at my church, and we're coming in as the others are going out. But it's, like you say, it's a very concentrated time, maybe 15 to 20 minutes. And unfortunately, we have 3 entrances and exits. Only one has a light. So we back up really bad, but it is what it is, because in 15 minutes, it's gone. I know I looked at this, I walked the site today, and I saw where the APS road was. And I envisioned, before I ever knew you were going to build on the east side of your campus, that most likely would be where you would expand when it was time to expand. And I thought then that if you do use the road now, it would have to be torn out, because depending on how you expanded, you couldn't make it work, because you really don't want to piecemeal it. And I get that. And I understand the concerns of the community as well. But we need to find a solution, and we need to work together, all of us. And not all of us are going to be thrilled to death with the solution, but we need to work together and try to come up with some way that we can make it work and that we can move your congregation in and out safely and quickly. And I do want to tell you that in meeting with some of the homeowners, I was very surprised to be told that you had Halloween parties that lasted late in the evening, which, being a church, we get ours over by 8:15, 8:30 at the latest. And I know y'all want to be good neighbors, and I'd like you to address that to us, because another council member sat in on the meeting with us when we were told that you were playing Hey Jude at 10 o'clock at night.
Yes, ma'am. I'd love to address that. We have had 3 or 4 sequential Halloween events The last one we were required to get a permit, which we did. It was posted. We have always ended those events at 8 o'clock. It's advertised 8 o'clock. We shut the music down at 8 o'clock. Biggest reason is it's a school night. We have kids. We want to go home too. It's over.
Excuse me, that's not allowed, and I'm really strict about that. So please keep your comments to yourself and down. We have someone at the microphone.
Now, ma'am, I can say that now perhaps there might have been confusion with other events that we have had with student ministries that maybe have gone on later at times on the weekends or whatever. But I can tell you with great certainty that our events were strictly from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, over by 8 o'clock. We did have loud music. We did last time. We had a lot of people. It was quite a large event. And we did prepare. We had parking attendants. Yes, there were people crossing over 161st Avenue, and that was something that was very hard for us to control. We did not anticipate that. We don't own that property, and they were streaming across. We were doing the best we can for crowd control. It was just a very large event. As we look this year at that, we've already talked about how do we prevent those kinds of things from happening, because we don't want that to happen. But I can tell you that's one thing you have to understand. That 8 o'clock, that's been on those Halloween nights, we want to leave. And we've tried to really stick to that very carefully. The DJ wants to leave. Everybody wants to go home at that point.
Then perhaps if you do have other activities at your church, you can remind them that 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, whatever you're going to do, the music needs to cease or whatever, because it is annoying to your neighbors, apparently.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And we would actually like to have more of that conversation to make sure that if there's things that we are doing, because there are multiple things that are happening, and I'm not always there for them, that we do get feedback. And as I said before, up until this process, we hadn't, and so we kind of assumed that there was an okay relationship. We didn't see anything wrong.
Okay.
Obviously, going forward from here, we want to look at that much more carefully.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Stiff?
Okay. I have these written down in no particular order, so just stand where you are and step forward as we go. I heard a discussion that there was a traffic study done.
Yes, Councilmember Stipp. As a part of their submittal for a special use permit, we required for them to complete a traffic impact analysis. That was reviewed as part of that submittal by both myself and the city traffic engineer, and it was approved.
And what did it say? Tell me about it.
Okay, so it studied all of the ingress-egress points onto public right-of-way. So there was a study of the new access point with the numbers projected that would exit out of the 161st. It also showed what would exit onto Van Buren from 161st, as well as the split that was anticipated would still come out of the main entrance out of 161st. It also looked at traffic that is on Van Buren. It looked at traffic, how it impacts with the Wildflower access point to the south. It studied that entire area and then projected the delay and what we call the level of service that you would achieve.
And that all met the criteria?
That is correct.
Okay. Did part of that traffic study look at not opening that road, that connector? Was that examining the quote-unquote current condition as opposed to the proposed condition? Did it look at that at all?
So the intent of the study is to study what would happen.
What you want.
I don't know if there was, I was looking back at Luke to find out if there was some appendice that had backup information related to what is it today.
Okay, so Luke's standing up. So
Luke's up. He might have something.
If you have nothing, that's...
No.
Don't come and go, yeah, what she said.
Mayor Lord, council members, the report looked at the existing condition with the existing traffic, and then the expanded condition had both of the driveways open, but there wasn't like a future expansion with just one driveway. So, but it did evaluate the existing condition with the existing traffic volumes with that one driveway.
Okay, where I'm kind of going with that is I am concerned about the amount of increased traffic that we could potentially put on 161st Avenue on a more than likely residential street, designed street with now a certain amount of increased traffic, and that we would be looking at a future obligation on the city's behalf to repair that street earlier than we perhaps had designed, than we had planned, et cetera, because of the additional road traffic. So is that, I'm thinking wear and tear. If it's designed to have 20 cars a day on it, but we load it with 100 cars over 2 days and then 20 the rest of the time, doesn't that have to me, there's a cause and effect. But I'm not, as Councilmember Pizzolo, I'm not an engineer.
Thank you, Councilmember Stipp. And I'm attempting to provide the very best answer on that one. Traffic on a residential street has a typical section. The section is, and I'm going to say 3/6, which is the level of paving over subgrade.
Right.
We don't design a particular road if it's residential based on less traffic being traveled on it. It would be the same design for any residential road, similar to the ones to the south in Wildflower.
Even the one in front of my house, I would imagine, is designed exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It's designed that way because it's anticipated to be less traveled. You don't design it on Litchfield Road that way.
But there's not a residential road design that handles only 100 cars versus a residential design that handles 1,000 cars.
No, but I think is there not a difference between a collector and my street goes on to a collector, which then goes on to, in my neighborhood, 144th Avenue.
Yes.
Those three streets are designed differently. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it is based on some form of number of wheels that are going to turn on it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So getting to the design of 161st, it wasn't designed to hold the level of traffic that Van Buren is.
No, it cannot handle, well...
not that it would.
It could handle it, but it would deteriorate quicker.
That's what I'm getting at. Okay, so that becomes one of my concerns about 161st is the increased travel in that. One of the questions that came up for me that I'm fairly certain no one is really going to be able to answer with any certainty is, this stipulation was put on when the church was first built, when it expanded, not to allow access to 161st. So here we are in 2016 saying, well, now we want it. And it begs the question, and this is kind of rhetorical, why did we agree to the stipulation in the first place if we knew we were going to be expanding later? I don't know that anybody really actually
here at that
want to
time,
answer
because
that.
I actually had a comment on that.
Mayor, on behalf, if I can.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead,
I'll
Brock.
defer to Mayor Lord to tell me yes, with all due respect. But, at the time, there was a significant opposition to a daycare at this site, and that is being overlooked this evening. And that was daily trips in and out in AM and PM peak hours with classrooms with children in them that had an occupancy of about 100 kids on a, give or take, a dozen on a daily basis. So it acted more like a preschool at the time. Since then, the daycare is since vacated due to our expansion, and largely because we need that space. And so I just remind you what we're really talking about here is Sunday mornings. What you didn't see, because I was respecting the time, is in that of the vehicles that come and go, out of those 126 respondents, almost 90 of them said they come once a week. So if you extrapolate that to everybody else, we're really talking about once a week. So, but yeah, that was a very, very large difference between what was going on in 2003 and what's going on today. We're talking about church access and safety of not only residents, but safety of parishioners and some teens that do drive into the site maybe twice a week, 3 times a week, in and out of that site. So very, very different environment for us.
I still have more. No, I got more, but
Since
All
you
right.
had a
Yes.
chance to respond to that, I'd like to also. Now, in 1999 is actually when the permit was originally set up to deny access to 161st. It had nothing to do with the child care.
I was going to say 1999, but that was before
1999.
we were
and
on.
the church made the stipulation to the residents in a statement that they would not request access to that. And their word was given, whether it's this leadership or not.
Thank you. And now on, please do not come up to the microphone unless you have permission, because this puts me in this kind of uncomfortable position, and that's really not your role. I'm never going to be able to talk, but I am going to say something here. When I looked back on this, I'm going to say shame on Goodyear.
Yes.
Shame, 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 shame on Goodyear that they didn't put that street all the way through to Portland.
Absolutely.
They listened to the neighbors, and they felt the sympathy to the neighbors, and they voted that way. It has caused a colossal problem. And I understand when you've been here 30 or 40 years in a community, you take ownership to that community. And so you feel like no changes. I don't care if the city's growing. I don't care if a business. I don't care. I understand that. I've been there through my life. And so I know that attachment you get. You're talking about this street, and you've got 2 plats ready for development, and you've got one right on the corner. It's probably going to go commercial. We have to solve this problem. It's just going to grow. And we are not going to be able to give everybody their way. We've got to come down with a compromise. And I'm sorry that you've always had it this way, and that you just want to live your life the way you've had it. That's not the way it goes. There's changes as a city grows. And so, Council, we've got a growing city here. This is not going to end the problem, our decision tonight, because we've got this corner coming up here. We've got a lot more traffic that's going to be coming. So this is not over. So what we need to think about is what we can come up with that is going to be helpful to growth and yet a compromise to the neighborhood. So I won't go into more what I want to say. So go on, Bill.
Okay, so I think it was the architect, the pastor. Do you have that picture that has your master plan? All right. And I guess I would ask the church leadership if they have, is that what you said, you can't really predict where it'll go? Is that what we heard from the actual pastor? Okay.
Pastor, but I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
That's usually my line. So did we hear from, is Pastor Tim?
Yes.
Did we hear that this is what he hopes will be there you are.
Yes, I'm here.
Someday, I realize we're talking about church, but someday, but you probably have this up on your wall as, this is where we're getting to, but
I do. You don't know.
You got to.
Yeah. Can I clarify one thing
Sure.
real quick? I tried to mention it earlier when I spoke. The intent in bringing this was not to highlight what's shown in the middle, but merely that we have been looking at the traffic circulation for the long-term goals. This is not a final solution. These are ongoing conversations. So with that, I'll let him address that further.
But I think the movement east is going to drive us closer to the APS driveway.
Yes, Councilman, that's exactly right. That's the only way we can go in terms of expansion. And we believe that we want to develop the entire property to the fullest of its extent. And obviously parking is a part of that. And so as we move east, we will definitely be looking at that exit.
Okay. It's ironic that the church that I currently attend in Peoria has this exact same problem. It fronts on 75th Avenue. It backs up to a residential area. There's one entrance off of 75th Avenue. Everybody in the neighborhood objected to the church opening up an exit onto the residential area. Part of that, or a lot of that, was solved by creating the directional traffic that for in our case, is a left out only. You can't make a right-hand turn, and it gets you 500 feet before you get to 75th Avenue. We have the same problem. Church services are jammed together, and you attend the first service, so you have a place to park, and then or you go to the second one and you get there right when it starts, so you can find a place. And I think, Mayor, you were kind of alluding to it. There is no winner. Someone will lose in this in this discussion. Me personally, I'm more inclined, if we were to open that driveway, that it is a right. No, it's a right in only.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone exits out on Van Buren. That we have one-way traffic on the right-hand side. It comes in, and everyone exits out on Van Buren. And you figure out the traffic flow within the property. That way, we're not backing up traffic on the folks that are trying to exit their subdivision who want to turn right or left on a Van Buren. They've got a way to do that. It's right turn in. And then we just reconfigure the traffic flow there. Otherwise, the only other solution is to use, I forget the term, natural, basically rock through the dirt, get it over to the APS. I think that's the only way that we really can solve this. And while I respect, obviously, the architect and all the engineers who say that's a stupid idea, we can't regulate that until we know what's going to happen. We can, and I think we have to. But that only works if the city does its job and posts no parking along the east side of 161st. And that's got to happen from Van Buren all the way up. And I absolutely, disagree with the concept we should have made that street go through. I'm glad we don't have that street going through. I think that'd be the worst thing we could have done. We have two completely they don't go together. The two subdivisions, the one at the very north and this subdivision, they don't belong together, just from the way that they're laid out and the feel for what they're supposed to do. So I'm glad we didn't do that. I'm not in support of that. But I would support a right-in only and let the church figure out how they get their people out through the other side.
Can I speak now, or have we got more? Is there anybody want? Yes.
You want to speak?
Councilman Holman.
Well, I was going to suggest that we look at the feasibility of the Portland, opening that up to Portland, if that is, or if that's already, because of what's happened, a dead deal. Because that wasn't something I had heard. I did have a question, because I heard a couple of things tonight, and I experienced a real challenge because I too drove around and trying to get a concept of what we were looking at. And I drove in off of Van Buren into the church parking, and there was a utility truck of some kind ahead of me. And there was a great deal of difficulty for him to get through because there were cars parked on both sides. And you had alluded earlier, or someone, and I didn't mark who it was, that it's hard during service time to get in and out of those front parking places to the south of your church and even to the west. So how many of your 169 parking spaces are back in the parking lot versus this coming and going area?
Rough numbers, approximately half.
Really? It didn't look that big to me, because I can see the concern there. I witnessed it and I survived it. No fender benders, but I thought, now I can see why there's a concern here. So those were the couple of the things that I kind of was, I can see there would be some empty parking perhaps because of the challenge getting in your car and backing out and holding your breath and hoping that nobody's backing out towards you and that kind of thing. And I'm sure your congregation is used to it. I mean, it's a challenge they expect. Hopefully it's a challenge they experience on a weekly basis. And the question I wanted to ask, and I think it's you, Rebecca, it may be somebody else, is how far apart is that entrance to 161st Avenue? I can't get a good picture of what's going to happen if they're both trying to go the same way, that 161st wouldn't interfere fear, if they're turning left onto Van Buren, wouldn't that just make it harder for the people that are trying to get out on the ones they're using now? Am I making any sense to anyone but me?
No, I absolutely understand what you're saying, Councilmember Holman. There's approximately 150 feet between the two. And we've actually had conversations with the church about potential ways that we could minimize. Possibly they're turning in the front entrance, and as they come out here, all Forest right turns out onto Van Buren. So the church has stated that they would work with us, similar to what the chief had said earlier about schools. Once school starts, we start working with the schools immediately to determine opportunities for streamlining traffic. We would do this similar, if asked by the church, we would work with them on this as well to determine what is the most appropriate use of those drives to limit backup on the streets, to ensure that we can clear the parking lot, things of that nature.
Well, my concern is it's like kind of closing the barn door after the cow's already out. In other words, we're making a decision, but I'm not convinced that there isn't going to be some serious, even further backup.
And again, I appreciate your comment, and I can't confirm that there wouldn't be, other than the fact that we reviewed the traffic impact analysis. But what I will say is that, similar to schools, churches don't want negative impacts, so they're more than happy to work with us, work with the police officers, work with our engineering group to find ways to solve any issues that they have. We don't find that schools, and I would imagine churches, are going to look at us and say, we're not interested in solving the problem.
I thought you did a great job with the Great Hearts. Great Hearts School is an example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Yes. And it is a small spot.
It is.
Really small.
Mm-hmm.
So any more questions?
I have a quick one.
Yes. Vice Mayor?
I guess my kind of question is, it looks like nobody's happy. I think there's one thing we all can agree on. Nobody's happy with how it is right now.
Oh, yeah, we all agree.
So it's not working. So leaving it the same is not, the church isn't happy with it. The residents aren't happy with it now. And I heard someone say that this is only a problem on Sundays. What specific dates and times do you want to use this? Is there a way we could limit it to certain dates and times? Kind of a happy medium.
Council member, part of the stipulations is that we would only open it during times that we would be having events that would warrant an exit like that. So, for example, For example, obviously Sunday mornings. I've shared this before. We are planning on having a Saturday night service at some point, so it would be Saturday nights. The part of the issue here too is it's a very small amount of time that's that crunch time. Even the number of cars isn't really so much the issue as the fact they're all coming at one time. So we're trying to basically drain them as fast as we can, which is why we like to be able to have access out that way to just make it easier for people to get out and get out quicker and not clog up Van Buren by having cars go out and just take longer time. That being said, if we have special events that require that, but we do have events sometimes during the week, for example, high school ministry, or we have our worship ministry practices, but there's not that many people for that yet. We don't, or even will be. We don't want to open that up unnecessarily. In fact, we'd rather have it closed because we don't want other traffic coming through either. I don't like the fact that the neighbors have had to deal with anyone in that parking lot late at night. They could just drive in. We're all gone. That's not a good thing. I'm very sad to hear that they've had to hear things going on late at night there. We want to do whatever we can to make sure that that doesn't happen.
So basically we're talking about just overall some events throughout the year, special events, Saturday nights, and then Sunday till about when?
Yes, I would say Sundays, if we have a service, like for example, right now we have 8:30, 10, and 11:30. So you would have you'd have nobody coming in after the 11:30. You'd have only people coming in 8:30. They'd be exiting between the 8:30 and the 10, and then between the 10 and 11:30 for about 15 minutes, and then that's it.
Okay, that's what we do with Desert Springs.
That's an idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any other? Okay.
Georgia.
Oh, wait a minute, what? Oh, turn your mic
Your
on.
mic. Your mic.
Thank you.
Whoops.
Signage on the street. So I'm hearing a lot of things about children playing. The community chose not to have sidewalks. Okay, so the sidewalks would have been a play to get the children out of the street, but they chose not to do it. So can we do signs that say children at play? You know, you've seen them and coming down streets, one sign. Or can we put a sign that says resident parking only on the street? I don't know. I'm just throwing some things out, all right, to keep the people from parking on the street. I don't think the church should park on that street, period. Okay? If we give you the being able the ingress, egress out, then I don't think your parishioners should be on that street at all. Okay? They should be in the parking lot. And if you need more space, then we need to create or treat the ground like we do when we have an air show. And we put people in parking lots and treat it, which they do at several of the churches when they use. And that would keep everybody on the church property. I do not like, as a layman, to tell you, the engineering, what I think how we should come out of each of those streets, because we're just doing out of what we think should be. You have the facts and the stats behind it. And you have also the ability, if we find we're in trouble that way, we have to change it. We put traffic lights, stoplights. We change the traffic pattern all the time, wherever we are. So I don't think that's necessary. So did you answer tell me about signs.
So thank you, Mayor. I do want to first say that I appreciate the neighbors bringing up the issue about the emergency access, because absolutely, we were not aware that there was parking occurring on both sides of the street. So this was a really beneficial item that came out of the concerns, and so immediately we've investigated that. We haven't installed the signs yet, but we absolutely will. And then we also, if we have not yet, we are also going to install a no outlet sign to limit traffic that maybe isn't sure that it doesn't go through. So we want to minimize traffic that goes on that road that doesn't need to be there.
And so can you put residential parking only? Is that allowed, a sign like that?
So,
I mean, anybody coming on that street knows they can't park on that street.
So I'll be honest with you, I'm going to have to look at that, because keep in mind that this is a public street. Okay. And so, again, I can't imagine what the condition would be, but I want to make sure that we're not setting a precedent by signage such as that.
I agree with you that. Okay. Before we go here, tell me about, I'm thinking zoning, I'm thinking everything, and I heard a lot of things about horses tonight, so I want to clear it up because people are listening. This is not zoned for livestock, is that correct? Hello? Is it or is it not? I need to know that. Is it zoned for livestock?
Mayor, yes, it's agricultural urban.
Okay, so when they talk about the horses, they are allowed to have horses on their property. Okay, I think we need to
put that out.
I had no idea, okay? So I can understand the size of maybe transporting an animal in, and so that has to be a concern. I do think that you should be able to use that emergency exit to get people out on Sunday services. I think it works. I agree with the neighborhood that you need to be sure that you're putting your asset management aside to build a road. All right? I can understand the question, because we certainly don't want you coming up again with an addition of so many people, and we have the same problem here, and you haven't even started thinking about how do I put a road in. So whether it's through the APS or whatever, I really would like to see some action taken on helping to alleviate that. But the neighborhood has got to realize, I'm still saying that one site on the corner of 161st and Van Buren, zone commercial? Just want to make sure, zone commercial. So what does that mean, zone commercial? Tell me what could come on that corner.
Mayor, council members, this parcel here,
Right.
it is zoned. Yes, it's commercial office. What you'd likely see there would be any type of professional office, any type of medical office, doctors, dentists.
Medical office, but there would be traffic.
Correct. By special use, you are allowed private schools, so that is something you could also see.
Okay, I just want that, so that, that's not going to go away. Whatever decision we make tonight is not going to go away. So, any more conversation? Councilman Pizzillo.
Just to follow up what Councilmember Stipp had mentioned for engineering. Upside, downside of a traffic circulation where it's right-hand turn only, exiting one way off of Van Buren versus coming in and out of two different entries. On your professional opinion, from a traffic flow standard.
So I think thank you, Councilmember Pizzillo. I think what Councilmember Stipp had suggested, you're coming in northbound off 161st and you're turning right into the parking lot and then exiting out. Honestly, I was looking more at coming in the main entrance and exiting out that northwest and making a left out and limiting to a left out only. Simply because then you do have that stacking on 161st Avenue that would allow you to exit onto Van Buren versus having the more circuitous route of stacking coming from inside the parking lot. That would just be my first blush at which direction would be most advantageous.
Mayor.
Councilman Stipp.
Can I go to Elmo and
yes,
just because I'm going to do this and everyone's going to go, what the heck?
Would you put the? Oh, you want to personally go to Elmo? You have my permission.
If you could stay there, Bill, we'll keep you at Elmo.
I see clients and I tell them I'm a far better staff person than I am an elected person. I don't have a pen. My thought in suggesting that was if the traffic is coming in this way, then the residents as they try to exit are not blockaded. If they're coming out this way and traffic from the church is backed up on this street, they've got to, if I live up here on Wade Lane, I've got to come and then sit through all this traffic as it tries to go. If we do it the other way, it pushes the traffic flow onto the property, much like we do the schools. And now they've got to deal with the exit. Plus, there's a right and a left turn here, and you could probably make two rights and a left temporarily on this way. And that was my suggestion. So, Joe, you were asking the question. That's what I was thinking, was to avoid the backup on 161st, exiting, and make it stay within the parking lot. So I don't know if that meets an engineering requirement or not.
Thanks. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And that's what I was trying to get to. You did a better job of drawing it on the map. So,
well, Mayor, I'm not
Can
sure.
I wait a minute and see if she's going to comment on that?
I'd just like to add that the architect had mentioned something I'd mentioned a few moments ago about the right. If we were exiting out 161st onto Van Buren, that it would be stipulated that, I'll just make this up, from 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Sunday mornings, it's a right turn only. Again, there are a variety of opportunities for us to make sure that this will work.
Do we need to make this decision tonight, or do we trust the engineering department to work with both parties in coming? Because what we're trying to agree on is whether or not we're going to open that fire lane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let them go out there. So that's basically what we're looking at tonight. So we could go on till 10 o'clock at night with this discussion and probably come in circles. So my suggestion is that we decide whether or not we're going to allow that. And then if you want the staff to come back and tell us what they've done and the decision between the two parties on. So it's really the entrance ingress, egress. We're just interested. Is that what you came for tonight?
Mayor, what would the cause be if we tabled this, let that discussion occur, and then came back for final approval?
To win.
You want to table this? This is what I'm...
Let them work it out. Let them figure out what the solution is rather than me standing in front of the ML figuring it out. If we table it because we're not under a time crunch.
Do we want to table the entire thing?
I would rather not vote on doing away with it without having a solution. And I think we owe the residents that are here a solution.
You don't think you offered the solution by saying...
I think I did, but we don't know how we're going to stipulate that.
How you bring him, the solution is how you bring him in and out. It's not the road itself. I'm saying the road itself, we should make that decision on tonight.
Whether they can use it or not.
Do we believe that they should be able to enter and exit that road, period? Then you come back and you can present to us but we're going to come back in again with the same number of people, and they're going to say, I don't want that road. I don't want that exit. That's what we're here tonight to decide upon. So why don't we simplify this and vote on one thing with a charge to the engineering department to come up with the best process in getting people in and out on whatever side of the road. Do I have any agreement on that? Don't all speak at one time.
Mayor, my only objection, if you will, is I'm not interested in approving an exit from that thing onto 161st.
Well, then you can say no to that.
Right.
That is your. When we put it up to vote, you can say no, deny deny. Which one am I voting on?
Right, but I would be interested in opening that to allow an entrance only. So I can't say that I would approve or if you're asking me to deny or approve, I can't do that. You're forcing me to deny.
Okay,
and I don't want to do
Let me
that.
hear from the other council. Where are we at?
I kind of feel the same way.
You feel the same way?
I think we should open it.
You think we should go for it?
I think our amendment, what we're looking at is vehicular access. So I don't know if we have to then amend that. Yeah. It just says vehicular access. It doesn't say open or close.
That's what I'm saying that's.
Would you want to amend that?
You could make
like add, but now amend it to add that as the stipulation to allow. Can we do that to
egress
allow
only?
Egress.
Well,
I don't know if
but
egress
see,
only.
This is where I'm going. If we table it, we don't have a public hearing anymore. We don't have to listen to the same argument over and over again because we're just continuing this. If we table it. I'm not telling the lawyer what to do, but
well, my suggestion would be if you're going to limit the access, you probably need to put that into a stipulation unless you're just going to delegate that authority through a stipulation to the engineering department, which that would be up to council on whether or not you want to do that. What I'd also probably suggest if you're going to limit the access off 161st, I would probably want to see a traffic study that develops that concept first because you don't have that at this point. So I'm a little concerned about what does that do to your traffic off of Van Buren, and is that going to create any liability issues? So I think if you're going to stipulate that, you do probably want to get that traffic analysis first.
And if we table this tonight, there is no public comment.
You could continue tonight's matter, and yes, the public hearing has already occurred.
There we go.
So we'll table it. Is that what we're saying?
We're going to
continue
the item.
Mayor, I make a motion to continue the item.
Okay, so we haven't got a motion on the floor. So let's make a motion. Do I hear a motion? I need a motion from a council person for continuance of this in a second.
For engineering and the applicant to work out a potential solution for council consideration.
I'll second.
Generic enough?
That's generic enough. You're not specifying a date certain, so that gives them the time to work through
it. That gives time. Do I need a roll call?
Does that work for the applicant?
Please?
No.
That's what he said.
All right, so I'll amend that we include neighborhood outreach, Rebecca, or engineering and the applicant.
As long as we can come up with a solution,
the
but if they're going to stonewall,
is that now
we're not going to
back
get it
where
done.
we started from with the opposed and the for.
Yes.
And that's what I was trying to avoid.
This is the cows all over again.
Huh?
This is the cows all over again.
It is the cows.
It's
all
the
over
ranchers,
again.
the farmers, and the city.
It is all over again. So I'm looking for a solution. As are you saying that you will? Are all of this council? I'm after everything I heard tonight. Are you saying close the emergency exit to the church?
No, I'm saying.
Are you saying that?
No.
Okay, then why can't you vote on that part of it? Yes.
I can see the value of one last shot, having them, try to work this out, because there's been several things been thrown on the table. If for some reason they can't, then we're just going to have to go. This is it. One more shot. And if they can't agree or come up with something, then I agree that what you want to do is fine. The continuance will get there. Put a set time to try to figure out something working. Don't drag this thing on forever. All right. I don't know if you want 30 days, 60 days.
Oh, no.
I think a time.
This shouldn't take 30 days.
No.
How long?
Well,
does
I'm just
something
saying,
like
you
this take?
put a time in there, and if they can't, it comes back to us, and then that's what you get paid the big bucks for. So we'll have to
Yeah,
make
I
the
give
decision.
big ones. I'm
Okay.
telling you.
How long does it take to do a traffic study?
And who pays for the traffic study? We do?
No, the applicant.
Oh, wow. And how long does that take?
So I guess I'm just gonna jump in and say I don't have a time on how long it would take. It's going to be based on the data that they already have, but I would imagine that they're going to run scenarios with exit out versus out of that versus an ingress only in. They're going to look at those numbers and see how they play out and which one is the most beneficial for streamlining 161st Avenue as well as access in and out of the church.
Well, they can only do this on Sunday, really.
Correct.
So this could go on 6 months, doing one Sunday at a time.
That's what I'm
You
saying.
got to do more than one Sunday to do a traffic study.
We already have the data collected for the existing TIA, so they would utilize that data.
Well, oh my gosh. What are our meeting dates, somebody? When are we meeting?
Does this pay anybody to wait?
No,
That's the point. We're not causing a financial stress on anybody. It's not like the development agreement. They've got people that are waiting to purchase property. I mean, this is an ongoing problem. It's been going on for
So what's going to
15
happen?
years.
So the neighborhood knows because of this, they will still park on your street. The church will park on your street until this gets settled. So just so the council knows, cars will be there.
Yeah.
Nope.
Why?
Because we haven't settled it. We're postponing this, and that's part of the postponement.
It doesn't have to be. That's something the city manager can do. He can go out there tomorrow and plant signs and say no parking.
Mayor and members of the council, one of the things that we are looking at doing regardless of the outcome is posting no parking on the east side of 161st Avenue.
All right.
So that is an action that we do plan on taking regardless of the outcome of this, and that primarily is to allow fire truck access, other emergency access through there so there's not parking on both sides of 161st Avenue.
So that will be something that will be new, but the rest of the development, the people all have to be patient because it will continue as it is. Is that what we're saying?
Mayor, and just to clarify, there would be parking on the west side of 161st Avenue, which would be facing southbound. So that would be allowed, just not on the east side.
And please look at Wade Lane. It's skinny as well. It's very narrow.
Mayor, Councilmember Campbell will absolutely look at that as well. The whole the primary focus here on this element of it is just to ensure public safety, accessibility, and primarily in the ingress in there because that's when the emergencies are. It's most important to get to those scenes as quickly as possible.
Well, and I think Councilman Holman had spoken about that. The safety is paramount. I mean, on the bottom line, that's what we're looking for is safety.
Mm-hmm.
So we are. Do we need a motion to postpone this?
You already have a motion and a second, so
All right.
you just
So
need a vote.
can you repeat the motion, please, so the city clerk has it correctly?
She should probably tell me what she has written down.
Yeah, well.
No, that we continue the public hearing to give the engineering staff, the applicant, and the neighborhood an opportunity.
Public hearing?
That we weren't
We're
going to continue.
continuing the public
tonight's
item
Yeah.
to give engineering, the applicant, and the neighborhood an opportunity to find solutions.
Excuse me, I just want to jump in. I just had the applicant approach me and state that that they are not in support of doing additional traffic studies beyond what is required at this time.
Oh, easy. Okay.
I got it wrong from a whisper.
Let me clarify. What I whispered was I wanted clarification on whether or not we're talking about a $25,000 solution here and a traffic study that's going to approach, 20% of the cost of the solution, and more time and more money.
Could you identify yourself, please?
Sorry, Mayor Lord. This is Rob Antoniak. I'm a parishioner at the church and member of the development team there. So I guess what I was asking clarification. It sounds to me like you're simply asking us to work out timetables, ingress and egress options. We know the parking situation on 161st needs to be alleviated. I think, a group of grown professionals can sit in a room and hash that out. We've got a lot of traffic data already. We've done traffic studies before, and quite candidly, while we are under expansion, and it does look like we have a healthy budget, we are a church. We do depend on a tithe to do things, and so we are pointed with our money, and we are concerned about budgets. And so when I hear things like traffic studies in 6 months, my mind starts to go down the professional route of where my engineering firm would take me, and all of a sudden I see 4 figures, 5 figures going out the door on something I think I'm hearing needs to be worked out inside a conference room with staff, the applicant, and maybe a representative or two of the neighborhood.
I agree.
Come back.
I didn't say anything about a traffic study.
Okay, I want to make sure that we're clear because I'm hearing traffic study mentioned in the back.
But if they require it, then
that's where I think we were standing when I whispered in your ear.
I apologize.
Respect.
Okay, we have another on the posting want to comment. Yes.
Church has been allowed
I'm going to allow you to do this, but put your name out there, please.
I'm Leticia Castro, and I'm on behalf of the residents, and we feel that if the church is being allowed to come and ask for clarifications, then we have every right to as well. We don't have ex-council members giving us guidance or counselors, so we would prefer if you would table the choice and allow us to work something out with them beforehand so that we can seek counsel as well. Again, they're going back to financial.
So what I think I just heard you, that you would like your church, your members of the community would like to meet with the church to work this out. Is that what I just heard?
That is correct.
Well, I do like the idea that the communities are coming together, finding their own solutions, keeping the council out of having to make this decision. I'm having to make a personal decision for you all, and that's difficult. So I like that idea. How does the rest of the council feel?
To me, if they can't get a resolution, we will get one very quickly. So give them an opportunity to do that, and if not, we'll call it.
And so do we have a motion on the table? We didn't get a second, though.
I seconded.
Oh, you second it. So now we have to take the motion.
Take a vote.
So we have to vote on that motion. Yes.
Mayor, I apologize for this. So this would be, I get that. We'd be coming back before council and certainly working with the residents as well as the church and our engineering department. Just want to make sure, and I'm definitely not trying to put words in anyone's mouth. So the direction that I'm hearing is that what we're looking at is the potential for this access to be open. There's no vote on it, I get that. But as far as us looking at solutions, it would be the potential for that access to be open, looking at restricted time frames, restricted movements. That's what I'm hearing from tonight. If we're off on that, then we would need to have better clarification before we enter into these meetings.
So we have a motion on the table.
That's my intent as the motion maker.
So Bill's motion was for a study. So we have to vote on that first.
No, this was for just table.
Mine was to
table it.
To continue the discussion tonight pending the outcome of the meeting between the residents, the city, and the applicant.
Does that mean I don't have to worry about the other one that was on the table? His original one?
I think that's what was encompassed in his original motion.
Okay, so that encompasses what he says. All right, and we had a second on that one. That was Sherry. So do we have to do a roll call vote?
Can we have discussion for a second?
Yes.
Well, we're going to table the discussion or till a later date. Should we say when? to continue it? I mean,
Well, you can. If you want to postpone to a date certain, you can incorporate that into the motion, but I don't believe Councilmember Stipp specified a date certain. So if you'd like to amend the
I would
motion,
be
you can.
hesitant to do that because the neighborhood has agreed to meet.
right. Well, this could go on for months.
So, what's the rush?
Well, then why bother to bring it to us if we can't get a decision, Bill? It's as simple as that.
But we're
We could
working
go
toward a
on
solution.
5,
So if
6, 7 months.
if it takes them 5 months to find a solution and they find it, isn't that better than us rushing to a decision?
We're not rushing.
I'm just saying that's why I don't want to put a
I think
60-day limit on it. That's
Fine,
all.
Bill.
staff let us know. Rebecca, I'm sure if
Yeah.
there's a problem where it's not.
Is there a word that we can put in there that
If it's
means it talks with time frame?
No later than June
Speedily,
30th.
readily, anything?
Mayor, I really don't think this is going to take too long. It's either going to happen or it
it's
isn't going to happen, right? That's the way I kind of see it.
Okay.
Okay, so
All right.
it isn't going to be 6 months. I'll be surprised if it goes more than 30 days.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Well, I will, before we vote on this, congratulate the two parties for coming together. We started at 6 o'clock, and if everyone will look at the hour. So when they say it's not meaningful to meet, it certainly is, and this is proving it. So let's vote on this. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, neighborhood, I'm trusting you now, and I'm trusting the church. You're going to get together. Now, don't look at me like what we have to...
I will be the coordinator.
That is a...
And,
all right.
And she doesn't need the
So,
whole neighborhood there.
she will do the notifying. So you will all be included. If you find you're not included, email the council, call me on the telephone. We'll make it work. Thank you.
I would, yeah, I would.
We're going to have to take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, as much as I hate to do this to the staff, we are going to have to take a break. So we're going to take 15 minutes, resuming the council meeting. So we're at 7.2. The item is a public hearing to consider a special use to allow installations of a proposed Verizon wireless communication facility monopalm at 2501 North Pebble Creek Parkway. Open public hearing. There you are, Alex Latinsky, Planner 2 to present.
Hello, good evening. Once again, another hard act to follow.
We like your humor.
Thank you. Shaw & Associates, on behalf of Verizon Wireless, is requesting a special use permit to allow a 55-foot monopalm on an existing pad on the southeast corner of Pebble Creek Parkway and Virginia Avenue. The pad is zoned C2 General Commercial. The facility takes up about 533 square feet of the 1.6-acre parcel. The placement and size of the facility will allow for future development of the site for its designated C2 usage. The request includes a waiver to reduce the setback requirements from the adjacent property lines. The standard setback for cell towers from a commercially zoned parcel is the height of the tower. In this case, the center line of the monopalm is 43 feet from the property line to the north, so there is a 12-foot reduction of that setback. The actual pad to the north, although not yet developed, sits north of the property line roughly 12 feet. So in circumstances as such, staff finds no issues with the requested variance and recommends approval. The facility and equipment will be concealed by an 8-foot decorative wall that's consistent with the adjacent properties. As I mentioned before, it is a monopalm facility, so it will utilize the palm tree design to blend in with the landscape. There is a diesel-driven backup generator in the event of a loss of power. The generator will run once a week for testing purposes. The facility will also include an air conditioner to cool the equipment inside the shelter, and routine maintenance will be performed once a month. All design and placement criteria have been satisfied. Public notification requirements have also been satisfied, and Planning and Zoning Commission moved to recommend approval 5-0 at their December 16th, 2015 meeting, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak? All right. I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I have a motion, a second, to approve a special use permit to allow the installation of a proposed Verizon wireless communication facility to include a 55-foot tall monopalm and support equipment on the property located at 2501 North Pebble Creek Parkway with a waiver to allow a reduced setback of 43 feet from the north property line in lieu of the required 55 feet subject to stipulations? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion from Councilman Pizzillo and a second from, Councilman Holman. Open for council discussion. Yes, Councilman Campbell.
I am looking at the proposed location, and I'm having difficulty getting my bearings on where I am. So, not that one.
The other one.
Yeah, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. This one.
Oh.
Yeah, the site, the actual site. Thank you. Okay, so up in the left-hand corner where it says Pebble Creek, is that our baseball field?
Yes.
Okay. Is this where we thought we were going to have, Mr. City Manager, a restaurant, a drive-in restaurant?
Mayor, Council, I believe previously there was an application for a KFC at this location.
That's the chicken restaurant.
The chicken place on there.
And it's not there anymore? They don't own that land anymore?
I do not believe they own the land.
Anybody know? Okay. All right, so this is going to be in between that piece of property and then whatever is there now, right? And whatever's there now is the strip mall. So it's going to be to
the north.
The north of the strip mall.
Yes.
Okay. Do we know who's going to build it?
Not at this time.
Do we know how long it's going to take them to build it?
Oh,
I mean, is it going to be right away?
Don't you remember how at Pebble Creek they put that one up so quickly?
Well, yeah. They could do it tomorrow, I guess. Okay. That's all I wanted to know. I just wanted to make sure I had the bearings. Have we had any opposition at all on this?
No, ma'am.
Okay, because no one really lives around there that you would have to notify within so many hundred feet because everybody's on the other side of the ballpark. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, let's vote on it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, here we go again. So we're going to open another public meeting.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm sorry, did somebody ask me something?
No, you're fine.
To consider the request for a special use permit to allow the mini storage and RV storage facility on the northwest corner of Australia Parkway and MSC 85 within the Australia 85 Commerce Park Plan Area Overlay. Open public meeting. Karen Craver, Planner 3, to present.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. The proposed mini storage and RV storage facility will be developed on 9 acres at the northwest corner of Estrella Parkway and MC 85, immediately south of the existing budget mini storage facility. The proposed facility will be developed and owned by the owner of the budget storage facility. The conceptual site plan provided with a special use request depicts a 43,000 square foot, 2-story self-storage building fronting on Estrella Parkway. 98 canopy-covered RV storage spaces along the north and south property lines to the west of the self-storage building, and 135 open parking storage spaces on the interior of the site, also to the west of the self-storage building. Because of the dual ownership, the proposed facility will be accessed both for primary access and emergency access through the existing facility. Conceptual elevations were provided with a special use request. as was a conceptual landscape plan. The site plan, elevations, and landscape plan will all be finalized as the project goes through the administrative site plan approval process. The special use request meets all the required findings for approval of a special use permit, and therefore the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the special use permit subject to the stipulations in your staff report. No member of the public appeared at the commission hearing, and staff has received no communication on the request. Staff joins the commission in recommending approval of the special use permit subject to the stipulations.
Thank you, Karen. Are there any speaker cards? Would anybody in the audience like to speak? All right. I'm going to close the public hearing. And could I please have a motion and a second to approve the special use permit subject to stipulations? Do I hear a motion?
So moved. A second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Vice Mayor Loretano. Open for council discussion. Councilman Loretano, Vice Mayor Loretano.
I'm going to do a Bill Stipp and say welcome to Goodyear because I live up in Estrella and there's a lot of people up there with boats and campers, and we have nowhere close to put any of that stuff, and I hope to get a boat out of my garage once you're built. So thank you very much and welcome.
Yes, Councilman Stipp.
I just have a quick question. One of the stipulations is that the special use permit approval does not constitute approval of the site plan. And I noticed that the covered parking is along the north and south side, which means it would front on MC 85.
Mayor, if I may, Councilman Stipp, those covered spaces along the south property line are actually adjacent to the Union Pacific Railroad right-of-way,
right,
and then MC 85.
But you'll see the quote-unquote covered parking. You won't see the building. You'll see the stuff in the parking lot.
Which is why during the site plan approval process, we will work with the applicant on the screening requirements for that property line.
Okay, and that was my question is, so in our development guidelines, there's ways that we address that. Is that?
Yes, through the use of masonry walls, through the use of wrought iron fencing can be on top of some of that masonry wall, as well as an extensive landscape buffer.
Okay. One of the things that's not allowed is a chain link fence with plastic slats.
You are correct, sir.
Okay. Thank you. And yes, welcome to the city.
Any other questions, comments? All right, let's vote on this. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Let's go to 7.4. The next three items on the business is to consider the Fifth Amendment to the amended and the restated development agreement for Amber Meadows, La Jolla Vista, Pradera. These items will be presented together and action will be taken on them separately. Okay, so everybody got that? Mm-hmm. So Christopher Baker, Development Services Director, and Rebecca Zook, Engineering Director, to present.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, so my presentation this evening is going to cover all three, 7.4, 5, and 6. And that is the Fifth Amendment to the amended and restated development agreement for Pradera, La Jolla Vista, and Amber Meadows. And the first thing I would like to say is my presentation this evening refers to a great deal of work effort that has gone on between development services, engineering, and primarily the city attorney's office. Sarah Chilton has been instrumental in working with the development community of West Goodyear on moving forward the information that we're working on for the updates to all 14 of the various parcels within West Goodyear. The last time I had presented to you was October 5th. At that time, I had anticipated we would be coming back before you on January 25th. I clearly was overeager and underestimated the amount of work effort that it would take to work with all of the development community to ensure that we had a very comprehensive amendment that we were bringing forward. We also have here this evening Phil Miller, who represents all three of these parcels, and he's available if you want to chat with him. However, I will say that his team was the very first to jump on the work effort with the city attorney's office. And over the last couple of months, we have had over 25 interactions with his team, whether it was meetings, phone calls, emails, to attempt to come to an agreement. In fact, their team is acceptable to the core agreement that has been put together by the city attorney's office. However, we haven't had an interaction with all other of the parcels. And so in order that we bring forward something that's comprehensive and that speaks to all the needs and everything that we presented on October 5th, both the customer and we're recommending that we move forward with this extension, the fifth and final extension. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Will the city clerk please read, Resolution 16-1739 by title only, please?
Adopt Resolution Number 16-1739, approving, authorizing, and directing the execution of the Fifth Amendment to the amended and restated development agreement for Amber Meadows, providing authorization and direction to take actions and execute documents necessary to carry out intent of resolution and Fifth Amendment, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved. Second.
I heard a motion from Councilman Stiff and a second from Councilman Holman. Open for council discussion. Councilman Pizzillo.
I was pleased to hear fifth and final. I'm going to hold you to that. But the question I have is, what's needed once this is adopted is to get the buy-in from the others, correct?
Correct.
You have a core agreement.
We absolutely have a core agreement, and we received just this past Friday comments from one of the developers that we had yet to receive comments from. We are waiting on two other of the larger developments to provide us with comments, one from their attorney, and then some of the smaller ones we have yet to receive comments, but we don't believe we will, as we've met with them, and I'm sure they believe that everything we're discussing will, all of their issues will be considered.
Let me ask you, since it's the core agreement, since you think you have, is there any timeline on here that puts a timeline on all these individual parcels to say either here or we're out? I mean, this has been going on so long. I would like to see, at least from my perspective, a timeline so that the ones that are buying into this core agreement are all on board by a reasonable period of time. I don't mean a year, but a reasonable period of time. If not, it just doesn't exist, because this is the Fifth Amendment. So I think it's reasonable to say, after all the time staff has spent, not just you and Christopher, but the attorney's office, that we say to the team that's on the other side, here's what we have, here's the time, and it has to be done by now. So the others don't drag it out, whoever's sitting out there that you need to buy off on this agreement. That's just from my perspective.
Thank you, Councilmember Pizzillo, and I appreciate your concern. And that is why we have worked so consistently with this team to try to provide the same opportunities for these developments that are part of the West Goodyear core group, the same accommodations that we currently allow other developments. The hope is that this will spur that development on. If it doesn't, this is the last and final.
So is there a timeline on when this expires?
This extension expires until we get to the true development agreements that we are going to be bringing on or before April 29th for all of those. And we can go into much more detail about each and every development agreement, because what we're proposing in the core agreement only speaks to the flexibility options that we talked about on October 5th. Each of the different parcels has a very unique development agreement that obligates them to, whether it's certain road infrastructure improvements, whether it's a traffic signal, and embedded within there will be timelines that commit them to a development of certain time.
So if I hear you correctly, April, what was the date?
April 29th is our plan. On or before that date, we will be coming back to council with the development agreements.
So what happens if April 29th they're not all bought off on this core agreement?
Then I'm in big trouble.
So April 29th in reality is the date we're looking at, right? Okay. I just want to be certain. We've had 5, and I realize that sometimes it may be like herding cats because you have a variety of individuals, all with different needs and different. But I would think after 5, we got to get these guys together and then finalize this and get it behind us. So I appreciate April 29th is not that far away, and I can live with that. But I want it to be the final one from my perspective, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Wally Campbell.
Well, this is one of the reasons why I keep bringing it up. No one prods me to bring this up, but we have talked about this and talked about this and talked about this, and nothing has happened. And it's so disheartening because even those of us in council, when we go to these big meetings and we're thinking, oh, West Goodyear's going to develop someday. Well, we need to do something about it. And I know it's difficult to get everyone at the table. We've only got 3 now. Where's the rest of them? Are they going to be coming in on April 29th?
No, and thank you, Councilmember Campbell. I appreciate that question. The 3 that you have before you expire on January 31st. That's why these are the only 3 that we brought forward.
Okay.
We are communicating with, I'm going to say 10 of the other owners actively. The other 4 owners, we have been in communication and were involved in various meetings with us throughout the summer and into that October 5th meeting. So we are communicating with the whole group, and we will continue to do so to head to that April 29th meeting.
Okay, are these the only ones that have a 5th extension?
Yes,
wow.
That is correct.
So the others are working on a 4th. I believe.
And what I would say to that is each of the development agreements are very unique. You might have 3 that are going to be a First Amendment, 3 that are going to be a second, 3 that are going to be a third, and then these 3 that are a 5th, because each one has gone through a different process.
Well, I do appreciate us as a city stepping forward to try to help these developers solve whatever the problem is, because until they build, we're not going to have these rooftops, and we understand about the economy. Everyone's affected by it, but I do appreciate the extra effort that y'all are putting together and talking to these folks and letting them know that we care and that we're interested in trying to help them so that they can build sooner than later. Thank you.
Councilman Stipp?
What are any of these 3 related to the discussion that we had in late December regarding the 5x5 lots, that kind of thing? Is that any one of?
That was the El Cedro development, and that is located in this blue area down here.
So they
are part of the West Goodyear group.
Obviously not the 3 we're talking about tonight, but they're the other in that other 10 that you were talking about.
Correct.
And didn't we final plat that night?
Mm-hmm.
Or was that?
Mayor, Councilman Stipp, the action that we took that night, well, let me back up for 1 second. We currently have final plat application in for El Cedro right now. So that will be coming forth probably in the next 30 to 45 days or so. That might be a slightly optimistic 45 days. Is probably
before April 29th?
Yes, sir. That's probably a good guess. But so we do have final plats in from El Cedro that we are currently actively reviewing and working with them through the final steps of the process. That was the revised preliminary plats, if I remember correctly. That was what was the change there.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other comment? Well, I'm pleased. I'm pleased to see this. I'm pleased to move it forward. As I said before, and I'll repeat it again, I was probably the only council person that was on when the original 6 came, and now it's the 16. I guess it was 16. I can't remember at the time, but it was great, and they had a vision, And I'm glad to see them back again with a vision. And I'm patient enough to even wait beyond April 29th. A bare land's a bare land. You got somebody working on it, you got to be happy about this. That means we got a little action. And I'm pleased with that. So we must be patient. These developers have come through just about everything a developer could come through in a downturn and more. So good on them that they're hanging in there and we've got them. So with that, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Homan?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Loretano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
All right, number 2 is, will the city clerk please read Resolution 16-1740 by title only, please?
Adopt Resolution number 16-1740, approving, authorizing, and directing the execution of the Fifth Amendment to the amended and restated development agreement for La Jolla Vista, providing authorization and direction to take actions and execute documents necessary to carry out intent of resolution and Fifth Amendment and providing for an effective date.
Now, you did know I meant 1740. I said, oh. So could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Stiff and a second by Councilman Holman. Open for council discussion. Great. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Holman?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Loretano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord? Oh, sorry, Councilmember Pizzillo?
Got promoted. Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
All right, let's go down to number 3. Will the city clerk please Resolution 16-1741, please? By
Adopt
title only.
resolution number 16-1741, approving, authorizing, and directing the execution of the Fifth Amendment to the amended and restated development agreement for Pradera, providing authorization and direction to take actions and execute documents necessary to carry out intent of resolution and Fifth Amendment and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Councilman Holman. Open for council discussion. No discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Holman?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
All right, thank you. Does anybody in the council want to talk tonight on any information or combinations or anything? No? All right, good. City manager have anything to report?
Mayor, members of the council have just a couple of follow-up items, no announcements, follow-up items for with the NCS. We're looking at doing some comparisons between 2014 and 15, geographically speaking. Question that was also follow-up is, are there what do we do about some of those dropping more than 5%? So that'll be a follow-up, and then we are going to bring back for council's consideration fire stations, but really all part of the budget process. There are going to be many moving parts as we get into the budget and then the prioritization. And then lastly, we will be keeping council informed as we follow up on the Compass Church, access, timelines, those types of things. And that's all I have for tonight.
All right, so no summary, so except that one. Does this council have any inquiries of staff? All right, the future meeting, the next meeting will be Retreat 3 on February 1st at 4:30. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting and then I'll call to order the special meeting. This meeting is adjourned. I'd like to call order the Monday, January 25 special meeting agenda. Roll